Chapter 151. The students were silent for a while, as if they were chewing Aris' words carefully. After a while, a Ravenclaw girl timidly raised her hand. Senior Shafik, your armor looks very different. Can you tell us more about it? That, elemental energy? I think many people will be interested in that. Yes, that golden light is so cool. Is that elemental energy? Will the elemental energy be difficult to understand? After all, we have never heard of it before. The addition of gold energy caused the iron armor curse to undergo this kind of change? It's amazing. Suddenly, sounds spread from below, and the whole classroom was buzzing again. Aris smiled kindly. This is what I've been waiting for. He had planned to promote elemental magic in Hogwarts a long time ago. This club is undoubtedly a very suitable time, and now it seems that the effect is very good. On the side, Hermione glanced at Aris, a little surprised. It seemed that he didn't quite understand why the boy suddenly mentioned elemental magic. Aris' voice sounded again. Of course, if you are interested, I will explain it in detail, and you can rest assured that elemental energy is not difficult to understand. As long as you have perseverance, you can peek into the secrets. In today's class, we will use the iron armor spell as an example to explain to you. He walked over to a dummy target. The iron armor spell is also called the armor protection spell. It is enough to resist ordinary offensive spells. This magic can be divided into full coverage and selective coverage, and the difficulty of each is different. Selective coverage can reduce mana consumption, but it requires precise timing. Full coverage is much simpler. It is also the most basic way to summon Zushan to cover the whole body. You might as well try to cast a few evil spells on this dummy. Aris looked at the little wizard in the audience again and smiled invitingly. Several boys who were eager to try immediately rushed forward and fiercely fired stunning spells and barrier spells at the dummy. After the spell hit the dummy, it was instantly offset by a thin layer of golden light. Moreover, during the pauses in the spell, the golden shield did not exist. This will undoubtedly greatly reduce the output of magic power. Moreover, the few spells I cast on the armor protection barrier just now had no effect at all. Is this the effect of selectively covering the armor? This effect seems to be no worse than the complete iron armor spell, right? Golden light again. Does this spell also incorporate the element of gold? It's incredible, Shafik is so powerful. No wonder he was able to defeat Professor Quirrell and the soul of Voldemort. All the students watched Aris's demonstration excitedly, and they couldn't wait to learn the spell. Aris nodded with satisfaction. Very good, it has aroused their interest. Next, it depends on their enthusiasm and understanding of learning. He cleared his throat to attract everyone's attention. Okay, now Aris's lecture is about to begin. I will demonstrate the steps of casting the armor protection spell. Everyone, please watch carefully. Everyone held their breath and stared at him intently. Even Hermione's eyes lit up, and she quickly scratched the parchment with her quill pen, afraid of missing a single detail. Aris raised his wand, looking solemn. The key to wearing armor is to focus your mind, keep your wrist steady, and pronounce the words accurately. Remember the formula: sincerity will work, steady hands will be accurate, and the pronunciation will be accurate. All three are indispensable. He said calmly, armor protects me. A faint golden light burst out from the tip of the wand and quickly condensed into a translucent shield in front of him. See? Cast with the wand pointed straight forward and the wrist flicked sideways in one smooth motion. It's pronounced protego, with the stress on the second syllable, and it shouldn't be spoken too fast. The students watched attentively, chanting the mantra silently in their hearts. Okay, now please ask a few students to come up and try. Remember the formula I told you. Several students who were eager to try came forward and raised their wands towards the dummy target. Prot, goo. A red-haired boy pronounced the spell incorrectly and blushed. Armor protects me. One girl stuttered and her wrists shook violently. Some faint white light emerged from the tips of their wands, but it dissipated before it could take shape. Don't be discouraged, this is normal. Aris comforted. It's like this at the beginning, just practice a few more times and it will be fine. With his encouragement, they tried a few more times and gradually saw improvement. Although the shield is not strong enough, it can finally form a barrier like light. However, most people's barriers are broken with a slight poke and cannot be sustained at all. Naturally, they cannot withstand the real evil curse. Well done, that's it. Aris still applauded enthusiastically. But why do our spells emit white light instead of golden light? A young wizard asked a question, and immediately, more people stopped what they were doing and looked at Aris. Of course, since you haven't comprehended the elemental energy yet, this is not an easy task. Aris saw that the groundwork was almost done, so he put away his wand leisurely and stood on the stage. Today's demonstration ends here. You can go back and practice casting the iron armor spell. Of course, if anyone wants to know how to comprehend elemental energy, you are welcome to pay attention to the club's next activities. Next time, I will focus on explaining how to make your iron armor spell shine with golden light, and how to make you truly comprehend the elements. As he spoke, Aris winked at Hermione, then turned and walked down the podium. Behind him, all the little wizards were stunned. They originally thought Aris was going to start his speech, but he just slipped away. What about elemental energy? Where's the golden armor spell? This professor is so irresponsible. Wait, he's not really a professor, it's not like he's obligated to teach a full class period. How can this be possible? It's really keeping people on suspense. A group of little wizards immediately scratched their heads. Their curiosity had been aroused and they couldn't wait to have the second club activity. And this is actually Aris's original purpose. If you want to comprehend the elements, you must carve out the formation, but today the conditions are obviously not there. This is also the reason why he wanted to arouse the curiosity of the young wizards and wait until next time to announce it. Aris, you use it so well. Hermione quickly caught up and whispered excitedly in the boy's ear, but why did you suddenly mention elemental magic? Are you really going to teach them? Why, is there a problem? Aris smiled. Of course not, it's just. I thought you would be more cautious. Hermione shrugged. Although it was unexpected, it seemed to be expected. As early as when Aris taught Harry and the others elemental magic, Hermione knew that this day would come. At this time, the system prompt sounded in Aris' mind. Chapter 152. Ding! Complete the tutorial task, Armor Protection. As the club president, you explained the armor protection spell brilliantly and inspired the students' enthusiasm for learning. Task evaluation, perfect. Your mastery of spells is amazing. Rewards, points plus 1000, personal reputation plus 50, number of lottery draws plus 3. Seeing the prompt in front of him, Aris smiled knowingly. Well, the first lesson was a complete success. Will there be any surprises next? Sure enough, the system prompt sounded again soon. Ding! Trigger the special main quest, Ancient Heritage, Elemental Magic. Task content, please pass on the elemental magic and restore the glory of elemental civilization. Phase 1, teach 50 wizards to successfully sense elemental energy. Rewards, 100,000 points, 5,000 personal reputation points, and 1 guaranteed gold lottery. Aris' heart trembled slightly, and he looked at the system panel in surprise. Main quest? There's actually a main quest? Moreover, the rewards for this main quest are too rich. 100,000 points, how many times can I draw rewards with this? Also, 5,000 points of personal reputation. Although I don't know what this thing is used for yet, Aris has a hunch that it will definitely play a very important role in the later stage. And the Golden Guaranteed Prize Draw. This is the first time that there is an additional guaranteed prize draw. Golden Legend. I don't know what it will be this time. Now it seems that this task is not difficult. With the help of the Elemental Magic Circle, it will basically take about half a month for the 50 young wizards to successfully sense the elemental energy. In other words, this matter can be settled before the holiday. At this moment, Aris suddenly felt extremely excited. In the Gryffindor common room, Ronald and Harry were discussing this morning's transfiguration with great interest. Did you see that? I turned that mouse into a porcelain cup. Harry, I finally learned it. Ronald shouted excitedly. Ever since Aris showed off his skills in front of him last time, he has been thinking about it and has been trying hard to learn transfiguration, so that if Aris changes his mouse into a wine glass again next time, he can change it back. And today, he finally succeeded. Even Professor McGonagall praised him, which was unprecedented. That's great, Ronald. I told you could do it. Harry congratulated sincerely, his eyes sparkling with pride for his good friend. Just then, Aris pushed the door open and walked in, with the hem of his windbreaker fluttering behind him, looking very excited. Hey, guys! Looks like you had a good morning. He greeted with a smile, and Hermione followed in with a smile and greeted Harry and Ronald. Hey, Aris, you actually came to the Gryffindor common room, that's not common. Ronald immediately came forward excitedly and began to show off his achievements. Aris, you can't believe it, I also successfully turned Banban into a porcelain cup in Professor McGonagall's class. Aris raised an eyebrow in interest. Really? That's a remarkable improvement. It seems you have a good talent for transfiguration. Upon hearing the praise from his idol, Ronald's face immediately turned red and he became incoherent with excitement. Of course, I have put in a lot of effort in practicing. However, compared to your magic, my little trick is nothing. At least, when you turned Banban into a wine glass, you didn't leave a beige coaster. Aris waved her hand disapprovingly. Don't underestimate yourself. Everyone has their own strengths and talents. The key is to be willing to work hard and persevere. Just like today in the defense club, although everyone is not very proficient in learning armor and self-defense at the beginning, as long as you are willing to practice, you will definitely be able to master it. Ronald nodded as if he had found a treasure. Yes, yes, yes. I will also practice hard and try to conjure up a tea set next time. Harry couldn't help laughing. Come on, Ronald, don't eat yourself into a fat man in one go, just turn the saucer of the porcelain cup back to normal color first. Aris also laughed. Harry is right, but does he really have any objection to you using Scabbers as a prop? He glanced meaningfully at the mouse in Ronald's hand, with a strange look in his eyes. By the way, I just went to the kitchen to get some food. How about we have a celebration party later? At this time, Ronald suddenly changed the subject, seeming a little guilty, and then focused on touching the fur of the mouse in his hand. Well, Banban is hungry too. To make it up to him, let's make him some midnight snack. Great! Harry's eyes lit up. You always have these brilliant ideas. I'm starving. Actually, I came here to look for the Weasley twins. Are they here? At this time, Aris finally stated the purpose of coming to the Gryffindor common room and started talking. Then, with a flick of his wand, he conjured up several goblets and a bottle of pumpkin juice on the table. Well, one of the goblets was made from Ronald's rat. This made Ronald and Harry stunned for a moment, and then silently turned their eyes to the beautiful Banban brand goblet. Didn't you say you wanted to get something delicious for Banban? Harry looked at Ronald strangely. Ronald glanced at Aris, then tried to wave his wand to change Scabbers back. But obviously, there was no way he could break Aris's transformation. Finally, he could only shake his head helplessly. I believe Banban will understand. After all, at this time and in this atmosphere, we need a wine glass, right? Oh, Aris was so thoughtful that he even changed it into pumpkin juice. I like this the most. As he spoke, Ronald seemed to have completely forgotten that Banban had turned into a cup again, or perhaps he had become accustomed to it. I never thought about how devastated the mouse must be right now. Poor tail. Fred and the others don't seem to be in the lounge. I haven't seen them all day. Harry answered Aris' question and then looked at the pumpkin juice on the table. Yeah, it's okay. Aris nodded. He originally wanted to find the Weasley twins to get the Marauders map back, but the map had been borrowed by the twins. There was nothing he could do. These two guys were too clingy. Even Aris couldn't bear it. However, now that Quirrell is dead, Voldemort's plot has been destroyed. There is no need to be so anxious to get back the Marauders map. In that case, let's raise our glasses. Aris smiled and took the lead in raising the glass, to escaping death, to our friendship, to the magical Hogwarts, and to the end of the semester. Cheers to Gryffindor! Harry and Ronald also raised their glasses with great enthusiasm. The four of them clinked glasses, drank, chatted, and enjoyed a rare and pleasant time. Chapter 153. The next day, the atmosphere in school suddenly became a little subtle. When Aris walked in the corridor, he was often pointed at and talked about by many people. Have you heard? It seems that this Shafik has set up some kind of defensive club. What a joke, he's only a freshman, how dare he start a club like this? I don't know why the professors agreed to this. I heard it was because of the battle that happened in the basement 2 days ago. There are all kinds of rumors now, and I don't know which one is true. Most people in the school didn't know the truth about Aris and Harry Potter's battle for Quirrell and Voldemort's souls in the basement, and most people thought it was too exaggerated. How could a first-year student possibly defeat Quirrell? After all, he was the defense against the dark arts professor at the school. Listening to these voices, Aris' eyes flickered slightly, as if he had thought of something. At this moment, the system prompt sounded suddenly again. Ding! Random mission released, exciting duel. Due to your outstanding performance in the defense club, you have caused fear and dissatisfaction among some people. Next, someone will challenge you to a duel with the intention of humiliating you. Please fight with all your strength, show your strength in the duel, and intimidate your opponent. Rewards for completing the mission: personal reputation plus 50, points plus 300, number of draws plus 1. Aris smiled knowingly. The system was now issuing 390 tasks more and more frequently. But it's better this way, he has long felt that the speed of earning points is too slow. Moreover, he just needed some clowns to test the power of elemental magic, so that those young wizards would be more willing to learn elemental magic from him and better complete the main tasks of the system. In the morning, Aris went to the laboratory of the room of requirement as usual, and everything was normal. It was not until lunch in the hall at noon that Marcus Flint from Slytherin suddenly came to the door. Shafik, I heard you say something in the defense club that everyone can learn armor protection. The boy with black hair, buck teeth, and a ferocious look on his face said sarcastically, his tone full of disdain. Iron armor is a spell that can only be learned in the 3rd grade. You are misleading the students. Do you really think those little wizards in the 1st and 2nd grades can learn it? Do you think we senior students are daffis? The surrounding Slytherins burst into laughter, obviously supporting Flint. Aris said calmly, just because you can't learn it doesn't mean others can't either. Why, you look very unconvinced. Flint was so angry that his face turned blue. Don't put on airs here. If you have the guts, let's have a real duel to see who is stronger. Tonight, if you have the guts, come to me. Not tonight, let's do it this afternoon after class. Aris still kept smiling. You better have the guts to come. Flint snorted coldly and walked away surrounded by Goyle and Crabbe. After losing Malfoy as their boss, Goyle and Crabbe seemed to have found a new boss. Aris looked at their backs with a playful smile on his face. As he expected, now it all depends on his performance in the afternoon. Time passed quickly. After class in the afternoon, we went to the top of the astronomy tower. Flint stood on the platform at the top of the tower with a haughty look on his face. In addition to Goyle and Crabbe, there were quite a few students from Slytherin and other colleges behind him. During this period, many people who had already joined the defense club were arriving one after another. Most of them followed Hermione's arrangement and came to participate in the second club activity. That's right, this time Aris chose the astronomy tower as the venue for the event, in order to better demonstrate elemental magic through the duel with Flint and arouse the interest of more young wizards. As more and more people arrived, Flint's brows unconsciously frowned slightly. On the side, Goyle and Crabbe were quietly complimenting Flint. Shafik, that arrogant guy, should be taught a lesson. Humph, Gryffindors are the best at boasting, I think that guy is the same, he may not have the real ability. Don't underestimate him, I heard that he is a tough guy who even defeated a mysterious man. Another voice came from the side. Come on, that's just a rumor. The mysterious man died a long time ago. Goyle sneered disdainfully. That's right. If the mysterious man really appears again, the entire wizarding world will probably be shaken. There were more and more discussions, and the entire astronomy tower was bustling with activity. Just when Flint was getting impatient, Aris walked up the stairs, followed by Hermione and Harry. To Goyle and Crabbe's surprise, Malfoy was also following Aris. This situation left both of them confused. But when they thought about how Malfoy had secretly informed Aris and the others, they couldn't help but sneer. Malfoy, they felt, had changed. Having lost the honor of the noble pure-blood wizard family, he is no longer qualified to be their boss. This is why the two of them are now Flint's younger brothers. Aris was wearing a dark green wizard robe, which made her look tall and slender. Her expression was calm and stern. Her graceful and natural movements attracted the attention of all the little witches. Sorry, I'm late. He smiled sincerely. Principal Dumbledore just wanted to see me about something. Aris did come from Dumbledore's side. The old headmaster was obviously afraid that he would make things too big, so he gave him some special instructions, but he did not stop Aris's actions. Especially after hearing that Aris was going to teach the kids elemental magic. Obviously, Dumbledore had tacitly agreed with his approach. After hearing what Aris said, Flint became furious. Don't use the principal to pressure me. I'm fighting you fairly. Even the professors won't say anything. Believe it or not. Aris shrugged, obviously not wanting to continue this topic. Aren't we here to duel? Why are we still dawdling? Flint sneered and drew out his wand. Don't worry, I'll let you taste the power of senior magic now. As he spoke, he raised his wand, without any pre-duel rituals, and cast the spell directly without any martial ethics. There are so many obstacles. A red light shot towards Aris like lightning, about to hit him. Iron armor protection. Aris waved his hand casually, without even pulling out his wand, and a golden light suddenly flashed around him. There was a loud bang, and the red light was completely blocked by the golden shield, and then bounced back directly. Flint was hit by the rebound of his own spell and stumbled, falling to the ground and flying backwards several meters. He barely sat up and looked at Aris in amazement. This is impossible. How can your armor spell be able to deflect spells so accurately? Chapter 154. The students around were in an uproar. Aris and Flint only fought once, and the difference in strength between them was immediately apparent. Oh my god, is this Shafik's strength? I've never seen such a golden armor protecting my body. Flint's spell is very powerful. I've seen him use it before. I didn't expect that he would be defeated with just one move. This must be a coincidence. If Shafik can really control the spell's rebound accurately, that would be too unfair. Aris smiled, looked at Flint with interest, and asked, how is it? Do you want to continue? Flint's face turned red, he stood up from the ground in a rage, and then raised his wand again menacingly. Don't be complacent, I was just showing mercy just now, this time I'm going to use all my strength. Fainted. Another red light came whizzing over. Aris remained calm, the golden flash appeared again, and once again, he used the armor to protect himself. The spell was deflected again, and then hit Flint accurately again. No. Impossible. Flint muttered to himself, his face pale. He was already a senior student, and his magic power and skills were far superior to those of ordinary first-year students. But just now he had clearly tried his best, but there was still no solution. Because the rebound of the spell inevitably weakened a lot of magic power, Flint did not completely faint at this time. He insisted on supporting his body and looked at Aris with disbelief on his face. Why, that's not enough. Aris smiled slightly, speaking calmly. I thought a Flint would give me more of a challenge. It seems that you still need to study for a few more years, kid. Brat? How dare you call an 11-year-old kid a brat? Flint was shaking with rage and gnashing his teeth. But facing Aris's calm and composed gaze, he could no longer say anything arrogant. After all, it turns out that he is indeed inferior to Aris in spellcasting ability, and even his magic power is the same. Well, the duel has been fought, and you have seen the power of the armor. Aris put away his wand and said meaningfully, I hope you can understand that you should be down to earth and stop showing off and pretending. Otherwise, sooner or later, you will be defeated by your own vanity. Aris said this earnestly, but he didn't know whether it was meant to be educational or sarcastic. Aris still remembers that one of Flint's relatives, or his father, had troubled him at Malfoy Manor. Although the man's fate was not good, Aris has not forgotten this incident. I don't know what's wrong with this Flint. He actually dares to cause trouble. Didn't he know how his father died? Or, he knew that, so he came to cause trouble? Looking at Flint's resentful and fierce eyes, Rhys glanced slightly. Should we just kill this guy? He won't cause trouble again in the future. But think about it, if we kill him openly now, there might be more trouble. After all, this is Hogwarts, known as the safest place in the entire wizarding world. If he kills someone here, he will probably be wanted by the entire wizarding world in an instant, and he won't be able to go to school anymore. Even Dumbledore won't be able to save him at that time. Forget it, I am just a useless piece of trash. Aris shook her head. Let's talk about it when we have a chance. Flint had no idea that he had been through a near-death experience. He glared at Aris hatefully, then fled in public with the help of Goyle and Crabbe. Goyle and Crabbe's hearts were trembling at this moment. After watching the whole duel, their impression of Aris's strength changed greatly. They no longer had their previous arrogance and followed Flint tremblingly, fearing to provoke Aris. After Flint retreated, there was another round of exclamations and buzzing at the scene. Merlin, Shafik is so amazing. He defeated Flint so easily. He is indeed a legendary genius. He can skillfully use the armor to protect himself in his first year. This must be one of the most outstanding students in Ravenclaw, right? I suddenly want to enter this house too. Perhaps, those rumors are true. With such strength, maybe he can really defeat Quirrell. That golden armor spell is so cool, how did he do it? The students were talking to each other, their faces full of awe and speculation. Aris didn't care at all and just smiled faintly. He stood alone on the top of the tower, looking at the gradually falling night and the bright starry sky, deep in thought. At this time, the system's voice sounded at the right time. 0 request flowers. Ding! Complete the random task, exciting duel. You defeated Marcus Flint brilliantly, shocking everyone present. Rewards, personal reputation plus 50, points plus 300, lucky draw chance plus 1. Aris nodded with satisfaction. Although the reward is not much, a small reward is still meat, and the task is too simple. So, it's still a good harvest. He glanced at the system points, 23,200 points. In addition, an additional number of draws was accumulated, 4 times. However, Aris did not start the lottery directly. Instead, he closed the system and turned his attention to the little wizards who were still looking at him with admiration and fanaticism in their eyes. Today was supposed to be the second big event of the Defense Club. I didn't expect something like this to happen, but everyone should be able to find some problems from today's duel. Aris looked at the little wizards with a slight smile on his face. Only when you become strong enough can you protect yourself and your family and friends. Regardless of whether you can use the ability to duel in the future, you all need to learn it, because you are all wizards, with God-given abilities and talents, you shouldn't waste them. There was another round of discussion below, and many young wizards nodded, obviously agreeing with what Aris said. However, some people in the crowd did not take it seriously. Perhaps they feel that dueling with others and living a dangerous life are too far away from them. After all, the entire wizarding world is relatively peaceful. Apart from Voldemort and the 50 wars started by Grindelwald a few decades ago, there have been almost no major incidents. Many wizards have even become accustomed to a comfortable life. With magic providing convenience in their daily lives, they are indeed too lazy to learn how to fight. It's the same in the Muggle world. Most ordinary people don't want to learn any self-defense skills. In fact, the defense against the dark arts in the wizarding world is the same as learning gun combat and fighting skills in the Muggle world, and is also divided into ordinary and proficient levels. Aurors are actually equivalent to special police or powerful warriors in the Muggle world. Mr. Shafik, can you tell us about elemental energy? At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from below, which caught Aris. Attention! Chapter 155. Can you tell us about the elements? Yes, we are all here for the elemental energy. I just want to know how to cast that golden armor spell. Professor Shafik, please tell us about the energy of the gold element. More and more voices were heard from below. Of course. Aris nodded gently after hearing this, then smiled and said, I just spoke out of my feelings just now, and next I will introduce you to the elemental energy and elemental magic in detail. As he spoke, he waved his hand gently. A blue light suddenly appeared and landed on the ground at the top of the sky tower. Along with the appearance of blue light, an elemental magic circle is rapidly taking shape. In fact, this is Moss drawing the element detection array and energy gathering array. Aris is going to show the little wizards the charm of elemental magic in a moment. This is the elemental magic array of 960. It can allow you to feel the elemental energy more clearly. It can also activate or detect the elemental properties in your body. Only by understanding your elemental properties can you feel the elements more intuitively. Next, please enter the magic circle one by one if you are interested. I will test you. Every wizard has unique elemental attributes. This is the basis for you to learn elemental magic. So, who goes first? As Aris finished speaking, the blue magic array on the ground was completed. A faint blue light flickered on the ground, carrying a mysterious and unknown atmosphere, which also made the little wizard feel a little uneasy, with hesitation and doubt in his eyes. They have never heard of elemental energy, let alone elemental magic. Human beings always instinctively resist unknown things. Even wizards are no exception. And this magic circle is their elemental enlightenment circle, which leads them to the path of elemental magic. Just when the scene was at a stalemate, 2 figures suddenly jumped out of the crowd. Aris, is the elemental magic you mentioned really that magical? Can the light of the iron armor spell be turned into a cool golden color? The Weasley twins asked one by one. Seeing the two of them, Aris nodded slightly and said, "Of course, it can not only make the color of the armor spell cooler, but also make the defense stronger and make casting easier." Aris said, "So, you guys want to try it? It's such a fun thing, of course I have to try it." After saying that, the twins walked into the magic circle one after the other without any hesitation. Then, lights of different colors lit up above the magic circle. Fire element attribute. You two are both fire elements, so you can learn fire magic. As for the benefits that the fire element energy can bring to you now. To put it simply, as long as you successfully establish energy perception with the fire element, then from now on, all your fire-related spells will become more handy. Moreover, the power will become even stronger. Aris gave the Weasley twins a brief and shocking introduction. At the same time, he also introduced it to other Master Lu present. I believe that with the Weasley twins taking the lead, there will be many people who want to come up and try it out. Aris, the fire magic you're talking about is the one Ronald showed off to us before. Fireball. The Weasley twins' eyes lit up slightly, as if they remembered something. Some time ago, Ronald showed off in front of them the magic spell that could create a fireball on his hand. They originally thought it was just some rare spell, but they didn't expect it to be elemental magic. The two had asked Ronald before, but because Ronald had not been authorized by Aris to tell others about elemental magic at that time, he kept his mouth shut and did not reveal the origin of Fireball. That should be it. George was almost certain. He looked at Ronald not far away and got a positive answer from Ronald. "We want to learn too." Without any hesitation, the Weasley twins came to Aris, their eyes full of desire. "Of course, if you are willing." Aris smiled and turned to look at the other little wizards. "So, what about you?" At this time, Ronald, Harry, Hermione, and Chu Jong, who had just arrived here, all came out. The four of them didn't say anything, but stretched out their hands and began to condense fireballs and whirlwinds, using this method to support Aris. When elemental magic appeared in the palms of the four people at the same time, Aris didn't need to say anything else. The young wizards almost didn't hesitate, and surrounded Harry and his friends, and began to ask questions one after another. Harry and his friends were obviously well prepared, and began to patiently answer the questions for others. "Zero, isn't it too early for you to make this decision?" At this moment, a voice came to Aris's ear. Dumbledore arrived at the top of the astronomy tower at some point and stood next to Aris. One can tell that there is a hint of hesitation in his tone, as well as a hint of uncertainty about the future. "I don't know if it's too early, but if you want to do something, you don't need to think too much about it. I just think now is a good time, isn't it?" Aris said calmly, with a hint of certainty and casualness in his tone. "I hope so." Dumbledore said nothing more. At this moment, only the old headmaster knows best what kind of impact Aris's step will have on the future of the wizarding world, and even, the whole world will be changed because of it. And the little wizards below obviously didn't think that far. Maybe they just think that holding a fireball in one hand and a whirlwind in the other is particularly cool and handsome. But once they also learned elemental magic, something changed. It's like stepping into a brand new world. After seeing the different scenery, it is hard to go back. Late at night, Ravenclaw Dormitory Tower. After Aris finished washing up, he entered the system space and called up the lottery interface. After accumulating 3.0 points, it's time to draw a prize. If all the more than 20,000 points were used for the lottery, 1,000 points at a time, and he could draw more than 20 times. But Aris planned to keep some points in reserve to redeem items in the mall, so he planned to draw 20,000 first. Let's get started. As Aris pressed the button for 10 consecutive draws, the gorgeous golden turntable began to spin slowly. Areas of different colors quickly passed by Aris, and then the entire turntable turned into a colorful vortex, like a mysterious, unknown passage to another dimension. After a few seconds, rays of light jumped out from the roulette wheel. First 10 draws in a row. 4 white, 3 green, 1 blue, 1 purple, and 1 gold. Gold. The first round of 10 consecutive draws. It turned out to be golden. Aris' heart beat heavily. Chapter 156. The golden light gradually dissipated, and a crystal-like diamond-shaped crystal appeared in front of Aris. Then, the explanation of rhombus crystals emerged. Anchor of space-time, gold. This is a magic crystal that records the mysterious forbidden magic of space-time. After learning it, you can use this skill under certain circumstances, locate a certain time node, and travel through space-time. Note, to learn the space-time anchor, you must have the talent to travel through time and space, otherwise you cannot learn this skill. Aris' eyes widened as he looked at the golden legendary item that was pulled out in front of him. A time-space anchor? A magic that allows people to travel through time and space? Is it so powerful? Is this kind of skill really something humans can possess? It's simply a magical skill. Time and space talent, Aris frowned slightly, then decisively chose to use the crystal. Do you want to learn the anchor of time and space? Yes. As the system's voice sounded, a golden light instantly merged into Aris's soul. It feels like a perfect blend of beauty, everything comes naturally, it is extremely comfortable and wonderful. After the golden light disappeared, the information and usage of the space-time anchor seemed to be engraved in Aris' mind 30, and he completely formed the instinct of using and remembering it, and absorbed and understood it. This person is the only one who has learned a god-level magic. Sure enough, I have the gift of time and space. Aris felt relieved. He had originally guessed that the so-called space-time talent should be the same as his space-time element talent, so he chose to learn the space-time anchor without hesitation. It is possible to locate a certain point in time and travel through time. But the conditions seem to be a bit harsh. It is not possible to travel through time and space at any time. It also requires extremely strong magic power to support it. With my current magic power, I want to cast this magic. I'm afraid it's a bit difficult. Aris could also understand that such a heaven-defying skill, which almost completely violated the laws of time and space, could actually transcend the long river of time and travel between the past and the future at will. This is not a normal magic skill. I don't know where the system got this kind of heaven-defying thing from. Aris took a deep breath, and then put the space-time anchor aside temporarily. He hadn't figured out how to use this skill yet. However, if he could really travel through time, perhaps, he could find out the truth behind the disappearance of the Shafik family members, and witness the rebellion of the former great demon Grindelwald. Thinking of this, Aris couldn't help but smiled and shook his head. In short, the space-time anchor is extremely powerful, but with Aris' current strength, he cannot use it easily. We'll have to talk about time travel later. What's the purple one? Next, Aris looked at the purple prop. Parseltongue, purple talent allows the host to learn the language of snakes and gain affinity with snakes. This talent can even be used to control snake-like creatures. Seeing this thing, Rhys was stunned. Then, a smile appeared on his face. Parseltongue is a pretty good skill. Although Aris doesn't really like snakes, it's always good to have more skills. Maybe it will be useful in the future? For example, visit the secret room? Merlin's natural language talent only allows him to understand the language of animals, which is completely different from being able to speak the language of animals. In fact, he can only understand the language of some creatures, which Aris had noticed before. Not all creatures' languages can be understood. Now that I have learned Parseltongue, it can be considered a complementary skill. I didn't expect that I would win 1 gold and 1 purple by just randomly drawing. It seems that the goddess of luck is still on my side today. As the purple talent merged into Aris's mind, he felt a strange power surge into his body. Then an inexplicable enlightenment came over me. From today on, he is also a Parseltongue. I wonder what it will be like to meet Voldemort again and have the two of them communicate in Parseltongue. Aris actually feels a little excited about it, but I don't know why. Next, Nyrus continued to draw 10 times in a row 19 times. It turns out that good luck only happens once a day. Any more would be a bit unrealistic. In the next 19 draws, the items drawn were all very ordinary. There were no gold items, and most of the purple items were enlightenment potions and magic crystals that had been drawn before. There were also 2 skill books. A book called Theory of Black Magic. There is also a mastery level fire curse. Both of them are related to black magic. The system wants me to learn black magic. Aris couldn't help but say something rude, but when he thought about it, he felt that it was indeed necessary to delve deeper into the knowledge related to black magic, otherwise he would not be able to solve any problems in this area in the future. This is inconsistent with his image as a top student. Therefore, he used the 2 skill books without much hesitation. Gained a wealth of theoretical knowledge of black magic, and mastered the fire curse. Well, this spell should be very useful if I want to destroy a corpse or something in the future. After a round of lucky draws, the proficiency in each subject increased significantly. Aris looked at the remaining 2,000 points and exited the system with satisfaction. Another night of good sleep. The next morning, Aris came to the edge of the Forbidden Forest, hoping to find some snakes to practice his spoken English. 630. He was quite interested in this new animal language. I don't know what it feels like to communicate with snakes. How is it different from communicating with people? Speaking of which, Harry Potter should have a say in this regard. As soon as he entered the woods, Silas heard a sinister rustling sound. Aris walked cautiously towards the source of the sound and drew out his wand in his right hand. Although this was just the edge of the Forbidden Forest, there were still many magical creatures. Who knows, some of them might jump out at any time. Just after walking less than 100 meters, Aris looked up suddenly. Behind an ancient oak tree, a huge green python was coiled on it, staring at him with its yellow vertical pupils and spitting out scarlet tongue. "Who are you and how dare you trespass into my territory?" the python hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "This is snake language?" Aris didn't feel anything wrong at all. It's like communicating with people normally. This ability feels amazing. Moreover, Aris did not expect that he would encounter such a tough opponent in his first experience of Parseltongue. This big snake doesn't look like someone you would easily mess with. Aris quickly calmed down, looked at the big python in front of him, and said naturally in snake language, "Hello, I am Aris Shafik, a student of Hogwarts. It's our first meeting. Please take care of me." Chapter 157. The python obviously didn't expect that the human in front of it could speak snake language, and its yellow vertical pupils shrank noticeably. "A Parseltongue? How rare!" It looked Aris up and down, and its tone softened. "What is your purpose, young wizard?" Aris said calmly, "I just haven't communicated with snakes yet, so I'm a little curious. I don't mean any harm. Please forgive me if I'm offended." The python stared at him for a while, as if trying to determine his true intentions. "I don't sense any malice from you." It finally spoke, "For Salazar's sake, I can forgive your recklessness. But you should know that there are not many people in the wizarding world who can communicate with us snakes. If others see you doing this, it might bring you trouble." Aris nodded calmly and said calmly, "I understand, but I think since you have such a talent, you shouldn't waste it because of fear, right?" "Well, little guy, you are very brave." The python stuck out its tongue and looked at Aris with a softer gaze. Next, the python and Aris chatted in snake language about what they had seen and heard. They talked about everything, just like two friends, chatting about everything under the sun. It was quite magical. The python even corrected Aris's pronunciation of some of the serpent language, from the most basic cavity resonance to some snake slang. The python knew everything, and Aris also found it very novel and had a deeper understanding of Parseltongue. "It's a pleasure chatting with you," Ying Lizi said sincerely when leaving. "Go, young man." The python's tone was rarely kind at this time, and at the same time, its eyes suddenly looked in the direction of Hogwarts. "There is one more thing I must remind you. Do not use snake language casually in that castle, because there is a very difficult fellow, a very ancient creature, which even we snakes are extremely afraid of. It was once called a monster by humans, a basilisk. It is there. And the snake language will be the key to awakening him. Once the basilisk revives, the castle will be in danger. As for you, I'm afraid this will cause you a lot of trouble." Aris' eyes flickered slightly. It turns out that even the giant python in the Forbidden Forest knows about the existence of the snake monster in the secret room? It seems that the origin of the basilisk is really unusual. "Thank you for your reminder." Aris bowed slightly. Afterwards, the python did not speak again and swam into the depths of the Forbidden Forest. Watching the python swim away, Aris stared at the direction where it disappeared for a long time, with a smile on his face. It feels good to communicate with magical creatures. It is a completely different experience from communicating with humans. Many things that happen in the Forbidden Forest have a different perspective from the magical creatures. It feels very wonderful. For example, the python mentioned the previous unrest in the spider's nest. In the eyes of the python, some mysterious power came to punish the ever-expanding Spider King. There are also the reactions and speculations of some magical creatures in the Forbidden Forest, all very interesting. Back at the castle, Aris met Anthony and Ronald of Ravenclaw in the auditorium. Why did Aris disappear again? He's been acting mysterious all day. Did he do anything dangerous again? Anthony was holding a second-grade spells textbook in his hand and chatting with Terry while reading it. The first semester was about to end. With Aris, the test-taker, the young Ravenclaw eaglet studied very hard. Anthony had basically mastered the first-grade textbooks by 2/3 of the way through the semester. Even though the holidays are coming soon, I am still working hard to prepare for the second-grade courses. It seems that he wants to give everyone a surprise after school starts next year. Terry was also holding a book, but it was a second-grade Transfiguration textbook. He had a deep obsession with Transfiguration, perhaps because he had seen Aris fly with a sword before. In his words, one day he would be able to use Transfiguration and the levitation spell to fly on a sword, which would be much more fun than riding a broom, and he wouldn't have to worry about the broom suddenly malfunctioning. However, he may not know that flying with a sword is much more dangerous for a first or second grade wizard. After hearing what Anthony said, Terry shook his head and said indifferently, "I don't think so. Anyway, in Hogwarts, I can't think of anything else that can be called tech for him. After all, he defeated a professor, and there was a mysterious." At this point, Terry subconsciously lowered his voice. "You said, did the mysterious man's ghost really come to the school and fight with Aris? This sounds too outrageous." "I think so too." Anthony nodded in agreement, but soon he frowned slightly. However, Aris seems to have never lied before, since he didn't come out to explain. This is probably true. But fortunately, the remaining soul of the mysterious man has been destroyed. This is good news. I can't imagine it. If Aris loses, the whole Hogwarts will probably be in chaos. The two looked at each other with lingering fear, and saw the relief in each other's eyes. "Forget it, why bother talking about this? The final exam is next week, and I must get full A's this time, otherwise it will be a waste of all my efforts this semester." Anthony raised his eyebrows at Terry confidently. "But no matter how hard we try, we won't be able to get the same results as Aris." Terry suddenly sighed. Little wizards like them actually have pretty good talents. Unfortunately, when they were at their most high-spirited, they encountered something too amazing. Therefore, I am destined to be only a small supporting role. "Hey, I think I heard someone talking about me." Aris walked behind the two of them with a smile, suddenly patted them on the shoulders, and then sat down. "Aris!" Terry and Antonin jumped up as if their hair had exploded. Seeing how Aris was frightened by this action, he said, "If someone scares someone, it will kill them." The two little wizards looked at the boy with dissatisfaction. "Well, what's wrong? You don't have confidence in the test." Aris was not embarrassed at all and picked up a piece of dessert and started eating. "It's not that I don't have confidence, it's just, I feel like having you around is too discouraging." Terry curled his lips. Anthony also nodded in agreement, and both of them had a somewhat resentful expression. "Why are you competing with me?" Aris raised his eyebrows, then smiled and said, "This is not pure and makes me uncomfortable." The two little wizards originally thought that Aris would at least say a few words of comfort. But what he heard was such inhuman words, and he immediately fell into autism. At this moment, an owl suddenly flew from the direction of the auditorium door. Aris looked up and his eyes moved slightly. He had a feeling that the owl seemed to be coming for him. Sure enough, the owl quickly flew in front of him and dropped a letter. Aris gave the unknown owl 2 bites of food, and then the owl quickly flew away again. Sending a letter at this time. Anthony came over curiously. "Aris, who is looking for you?" The boy pushed Anthony's head aside unhappily, then looked at the letter in his hand with some surprise. This letter was actually sent to him by Grindelwald. If other people in the school saw this, it would probably cause a sensation. The former Dark Lord actually wrote a letter to Aris. Chapter 158. Grindelwald. Aris muttered, looked around, then looked at Anthony and Terry, then put the letter away. "What's up, Aris?" Looking at the boy's actions, Anthony and Terry asked in surprise. "Nothing, I'm full, let me go back to the dormitory first." Having said that, Aris stood up and walked towards the Ravenclaw lounge. "What's going on? Why are you suddenly so mysterious?" Terry scratched his head, confused, as he watched Aris leave. "I just seemed to hear Aris say Grindelwald." Anthony swallowed uncertainly. What happened to Grindelwald? Terry obviously didn't know the man's name and looked at Anthony with some confusion. "You haven't heard of Grindelwald? Why, haven't you heard? It's weird. Then you must know a certain dark wizard who is as famous as Professor Dumbledore, right? Then Grindelwald wouldn't be. Yes, it's just what you think. But, why did Aris suddenly say that name? Anthony and Terry's eyes widened suddenly. Could the contents of that letter be related to Grindelwald? That should be the case. 823. It's impossible that the letter was sent by Grindelwald. Terry shrugged. This Aris is always mysterious. The two shook their heads and then concentrated on dealing with the food on the long table. Ravenclaw lounge entrance. What on earth does this guy want to do? Aris had just finished reading the letter from Grindelwald. The old man actually said he would give him a surprise during the summer vacation. Anyway, Aris doesn't know what the surprise is. Maybe, it could be a shock. After all, the former Dark Lord's methods and thoughts cannot be guessed by common sense. However, Grindelwald's tone seemed very confident, as if Aris would be very happy, even surprised, as long as she saw his so-called surprise. This made Aris feel excited. Aris. At this moment, a voice interrupted Aris's thoughts. He looked up and saw Hermione standing at the door of the Ravenclaw common room, looking like she was waiting for someone. Have you been waiting for me here? Aris asked in confusion. What could the little witch want from me at this time? The final exam is coming up soon. Shouldn't Hermione be studying all night in the library? Coming here now doesn't seem like a top student's style. I'm still a little unsure. After all, I haven't been studying hard during this period because of the incident in the basement, so I want to talk to you, or... What do you think will be the questions in this final exam? Seeing Aris coming back, Hermione hurried over to him. Oh, so that's what it is. Aris now understood. No wonder Hermione was waiting here on purpose. It turns out that he wanted to predict the topic. The difficulty of the first grade final test was actually not high, and the little witch didn't have to worry at all with her strength. What's more, she had been trying hard to keep up with Aris for the entire semester. Now even if I give the little witch second grade questions, I guess there won't be any problems. This little girl is so anxious because she is too nervous. I'll give you a test paper later, will you do it? Aris did not offer comfort directly, but chose another way. Examinations were not something that could ease one's nervousness with just a few words of comfort, especially since this was Hermione's first final exam at Hogwarts, so she naturally took it very seriously. Aris prepared a test paper to let the little witch have a clearer understanding of her own strength. This way she might be more confident and calm. Okay. I have no idea what to do right now. It's great that you can give me a test paper to practice on. Hermione nodded quickly without any hesitation. Then shall we go to my dorm? Aris asked Hermione for advice. Dabbage, dormitory. Hermione was stunned for a moment, then frowned slightly and said, won't your roommate have any objections? If you do a whole set of test papers, it should take a long time. 89. I don't have a roommate. Aris shrugged, then turned around and asked the question raised by Eagle Ring. The door to the lounge opened and the boy walked straight in. No roommate. Before Hermione could react to what Aris meant, she saw that the door of the common room was about to close, so she didn't care about anything else and hurriedly followed. I've always lived alone. Aris explained to Hermione as they walked up the spiral staircase. Living alone? You live alone in such a big dormitory? Hermione blinked in surprise. Well, it's a lot quieter. I still prefer to be alone. As they were talking, the two had already arrived at the door of Aris' dormitory. As if sensing the arrival of someone, the dormitory door opened automatically. Seeing this, Hermione blinked in surprise again. This door has the function of opening and closing automatically. Hermione was a little confused at this point. Are Gryffindor dormitories different from Ravenclaw dormitories? Also, the layout of Aris' dormitory is obviously different from that of ordinary dormitories. It is like a small suite, with a bedroom at the innermost part and a study outside, which is filled with books. There is also a luxurious desk in the center of the study. I bought all these by myself. The dormitory at school was too simple. There was nothing but a bed and a closet for clothes, so I bought some furniture. Some of them were created by transfiguration, of course. For example, that little sofa is actually a wooden stool. As he spoke, the single person in the corner suddenly jumped, and then quickly turned into a wooden stool. That's very convenient. Seeing Aris's transfiguration skill inadvertently revealed, Hermione looked at the boy helplessly. She always felt that this guy seemed to be showing off something. Even senior students may not be able to perform such advanced transfiguration. But for the boy, it was so relaxing and comfortable. Hermione knew very well that she would never be able to catch up with the boy's strength. Aris smiled and then waved gently. A quill on the desk began to move, writing the topic on a piece of parchment. Wait a moment, your paper will be ready soon. The quill on the desk was producing questions very quickly. After a moment, Aris seemed to think it was too slow and waved his hand to make the second feather pen move. 2 quills kept writing down questions on the parchment with a rustling sound. In just about 10 minutes, 2 test sheets of about 20 questions were completed. Okay, let's see how much you can accomplish. Aris handed the parchment to the stunned little witch and smiled. Chapter 159. Is this difficult for first graders? After Hermione took the sheepskin test paper, she first looked at the questions carefully. Then he looked up at Aris with some confusion. Of course, it shouldn't be too different from the final exam in terms of difficulty. Maybe, there are some questions in here that will be used for the exam. Of course, they should just be the same question types. After all, I didn't write the exam questions. Aris casually picked up a book titled Forgotten Ancient Magic and Spells from the bookshelf. But, these questions don't look that difficult, do they? Hermione stared. She thought that the questions Aris asked would be very difficult, but the results were different. Do you have any misunderstanding about the difficulty of first years? Ali looked at Hermione strangely. Is there? The little witch tilted her head and frowned. Okay, let's do the questions first. Looking at Hermione's adorable appearance, Aris couldn't help but reach out and touch the girl's hair. The fluffy feeling, well, I can only say, very comfortable. Don't touch my hair, it's messed up. The little witch's face turned red all of a sudden, and then she ran to the small desk on the other side with the test paper and started doing the questions. Aris looked at the little witch who ran away and shook his head in amusement. I don't know when I became so shy. I never saw it like this when I touched it before. He took the book, sat down at the big desk, and made 2 cups of tea. One for himself, and the other floated towards Hermione. The 2 of them were like this, one doing exercises and the other reading a book. The hot afternoon sun shone on the balcony and it was very hot outside. But there was a gust of cool breeze in the study, which was the wind attribute magic circle set up by Aris in the room. It doesn't have any offensive power, it just lowers the temperature in the house, like an air conditioner. An hour later, Hermione stood up as if on cue. Finished. Aris didn't seem surprised. He knew that a test of this difficulty would not be difficult for Hermione. If he were to do a test of this level, he would probably finish it in half an hour. Of course, this is when using an automatic quill pen. I'm done. Hermione took one last look at the test paper and handed it to Aris. I'm not sure if the explanation for the second to last question is accurate. Maybe I missed something, but I can't remember it. She seemed a little annoyed. Aris guessed that if it weren't for this question, Hermione would have finished it long ago. Let me take a look first. Aris didn't say much, and just looked down at the test paper in his hand. The test paper was filled with words, and Hermione's handwriting was beautiful, just like her, pleasing to the eye. The first test paper consists mostly of multiple choice and fill-in-the-blank questions. All right. Aris only took a glance and was sure it was correct. Then came the second test paper, where I basically got all the answers right, except for some of the big questions which were not answered perfectly. For example, the second to last question Hermione asked, list the effects of Bezoar in detail? The perfect answer should have 4 points, but Hermione only wrote 3, which is not wrong, because the 4th function of Bezoar is not actually part of the first-year curriculum, but has already been involved in the 3rd year. Can be used as a material for a more complex potion. And what kind of magic potion it is definitely unknown now. How is it? After a few minutes, the little witch looked at Aris with anticipation and a little uneasiness in her eyes. Yes, 100% accuracy. Aris looked up and smiled. How is that possible? I clearly got the answer to the second to last question. Hermione covered her mouth in surprise. You did write a little less on the second to last question, but that's already 3rd grade content. Judging from the 1st grade exam content alone, there's nothing wrong with your answer. Aris said affirmatively. Really? Hermione could hardly hold back the smile in the corners of her eyes. Of course. Aris praised generously, I can guarantee that even if the professors were to do this test, they couldn't do better than you. I always thought. I didn't expect it to be so easy. Hermione suddenly paced back and forth quickly in the study, looking very excited and couldn't stop being happy. Aris smiled, then his eyes softened. You have to know that you are definitely one of the smartest students in the entire first grade. If even you can't pass the exam, then all the students in the entire school will probably fail. So, you really don't have to worry too much. I'm just a little unsure. After all, I'm just a witch born in a Muggle family. I don't have the deep background of those pure-blood families, nor do I have the common sense of magic cultivated since childhood. I'm just afraid of being worse than others. 0 request flowers. As she spoke, Hermione's eyes suddenly turned red, as if she had thought of something unfair. You are no worse than anyone else. Aris affirmatively placed the test paper in front of Hermione and said seriously, like this test paper, in my opinion, you are even better than most pure-blood wizards, and you are smarter and work harder. All you lack is a little confidence. Hearing this, Hermione finally felt relieved and burst into laughter. If it's really as you said, I'll be relieved. The little witch took a deep breath, then turned and walked outside. Okay, afternoon classes are about to start, I should go. Well, I might go to the lab in a while. If you want to find me, you can go there later. Aris replied casually, and did not get up to see Hermione off. Anyway, the dormitory door would open by itself. 0, Aris, thank you. When Hermione reached the door, she suddenly turned around and looked at the boy, smiling broadly. Looking at that cute and innocent face, Aris smiled and nodded slightly. As long as you can feel at ease, what I do is valuable. Go ahead, you're going to be late. Well, I'm leaving. The little witch seemed to blush again and hurried out of the dormitory. Aris could even hear her thumping down the stairs. After Hermione left, Aris took out a map from the drawer under the desk. That's right, the Marauders map has been taken back by Aris. He glanced at the headmaster's office and saw Dumbledore was there, apparently he had not left. After thinking for a moment, he put the map back into the drawer, then tidied himself up, stood up, left the dormitory, and walked straight to the principal's office. He had some things to do in the afternoon. However, doing that might require Dumbledore's help. Or, you can bring the old man along. And there is the Philosopher's Stone. He is very interested in that thing. He had always thought that if he let the magic light brain moss analyze the Philosopher's Stone, perhaps he could completely crack the secret inside. Then, could he then mass-produce the Philosopher's Stone? This has not been verified yet, and Aris is not sure. But it is possible after all. That's it. Chapter 160. The House of Requests. Aris's laboratory. Dumbledore was currently touring the equipment in the laboratory, especially the magic array platforms, looking at them very carefully. Is this the teleportation magic circle you mentioned? When Dumbledore came to a magic circle emitting light blue magic light, he asked with interest. That's right. Aris nodded. However, this magic circle cannot be used now because of some permission issues. Because of the Hogwarts restricted authority. Dumbledore seemed to know something. That's right, I've never figured that thing out. Aris nodded. This castle is too old, and I've never seen many of the forbidden magics contained in it, so I'd like to ask the professor for some advice. Or maybe the professor can give my magic circle permission to run it. The principle of the teleportation magic circle is actually similar to the 527 shape of apparition, but it is more complicated and involves more comprehensive space teleportation rules. It can even be regarded as a multi-person apparition device. Therefore, Aris must obtain permission to apparate within the castle before the teleportation magic circle can truly operate. This is why he must ask Dumbledore to come here. I may not be able to do what you ask. Dumbledore thought for a while, then shook his head gently. As you said, this castle has a very long history. There's so much magic in it. As the principal of this school, I have the authority to apparate within the school, but it is not up to me to grant you this authority. You need to obtain the castle's approval yourself. Hearing this, Aris' eyes showed a hint of surprise. In other words, this castle actually has some kind of self-awareness. It's not impossible for you to understand it this way. Dumbledore nodded affirmatively. Aris was even more surprised. I really didn't expect this. A castle could actually develop self-awareness. This is too incredible. In fact, strictly speaking, it can't be considered self-awareness. Dumbledore weighed his words and explained, you can think of it as a kind of rule. As long as you are in the castle, no matter who you are, you must abide by this rule. Otherwise, you won't be welcome in this castle. As he spoke, Dumbledore drew out his wand and tapped lightly in the air. The next second, a scene that surprised Aris appeared. An invisible ripple seemed to appear in the air, and then a faint light suddenly appeared in the room. The light quickly filled the entire room and then slowly rotated around Aris. This is... The boy was a little confused. Dumbledore smiled and said, don't be nervous. This is the castle's rules observing you. In other words, it is testing whether you are qualified to use the castle's rules. If you pass the test, your magic circle should be able to operate normally. As he spoke, Dumbledore walked up to Aris and gently touched the boy's forehead. The faint white light spots around him quickly gathered and poured into Aris' forehead. Then an indescribable feeling emerged from Aris' mind. At the same time, the system prompt sounded in Aris's mind. The power of rules has been detected. Is it integrated into the system? Aris was startled, and consciousness instantly entered his mind. At this moment, the white light spots that had just flooded into his mind condensed into a virtual projection of a castle like a three-dimensional figure floating quietly in the sea of Aris. The power of the system has already penetrated into it and seems to have taken control of this power. The system can actually integrate the power of the castle's rules. Aris never thought that this situation would happen. But looking at the current situation, it seems that there will be no harm in integrating this force of rules. Thinking of this, I made a decision in my heart. Confirm the fusion. As soon as this thought came to mind, the castle in the sea of consciousness was suddenly enveloped by a golden light. A sense of enlightenment also emerged in Aris' mind. The golden light is the power of the system, which is currently receiving the power of the castle's rules. As the two continued to merge, Aris could clearly feel that everything in the castle seemed to have merged into his mind, whether it was the basement where the Philosopher's Stone was previously stored. Or maybe it's a basilisk hidden in the complex sewers beneath the castle. For Aris, this castle no longer has any secrets. Perhaps even Dumbledore did not expect that Aris could completely control the rules of this castle. This is something that even he cannot do. At most, Dumbledore obtained some of the rights that belonged to the headmaster, such as being able to apparate within the school, communicating with the portraits on the wall, and other relatively simple rights. And Aris has completely taken over the rules of this castle. As long as he wants, this castle will no longer have any secrets for him. Including but not limited to, the castle's protective measures, Aris can activate them at any time, and he can do whatever he wants in the castle. There are also some ancient secrets that are gradually revealed to Aris. It's amazing. Looking at the castle projection that gradually turned into a light golden color, Aris couldn't help but feel surprised. This castle is really like what Dumbledore said, it has formed a kind of collective consciousness, with the magical power of self-maintenance and self-evolution, just like the legendary paradise. Or maybe it's similar to the immortal palace mentioned in some fairy tale novels. This castle hides too many secrets. After a moment, Aris opened his eyes. How about it? Dumbledore spoke at the right time, but there was obviously a hint of surprise in his eyes. He seemed to have sensed something. I have earned the castle's approval. Aris did not hide anything and answered directly. Just as I thought. Dumbledore nodded, but the confusion in his eyes did not disappear. He continued to ask, what else? You should have gained more than this just now, right? I feel that the rules of this castle seem to have become more powerful, and there seem to be some unknown changes. Are those changes related to you? Hearing this, Aris smiled. This castle has many secrets, especially those about the rules in 4.9. Even you, the professor, may not have fully explored them. Fortunately, we still have a lot of time, right? Indeed, there are many things that even I don't understand. Dumbledore looked at Aris seriously, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face, but, maybe I can get the answers to those questions from you in the future, right? I think this castle may have a real owner in the future. It's true. I can't hide anything from you. Aris shook his head helplessly. After getting the exact answer, Dumbledore's eyes lit up, and then he exclaimed softly, Merlin, what an incredible thing. You actually did it. I think, the 4 former owners of this castle probably didn't expect this day to come. Aris, you are so amazing. Chapter 161. Professor Dumbledore, what are you going to do with the Philosopher's Stone? After gaining access to Hogwarts, Aris was able to quickly perfect the teleportation magic circle, and teleportation could be performed using only magic crystals. So he turned the topic back to the Philosopher's Stone, his eyes filled with inquiry. I have obtained the permission of that old friend. He agreed to destroy the Philosopher's Stone to prevent other accidents from happening in the future. Dumbledore's tone was somewhat serious. Destroy? Aris frowned. The plot was indeed the same as the original. Dumbledore did not plan to keep the Philosopher's Stone. But if this happened, Nicholas Flamel would surely die. After all, he was too old and his body had long lost its vitality. The old alchemist was able to survive entirely due to the power of the Philosopher's Stone. I don't think this is the best option, is it? Oh, do you have any other ideas? Dumbledore looked at Aris, a hint of thought flashing in his eyes. Of course, why don't we keep it? Voldemort probably doesn't have the energy to look for this thing now. Song wants us to keep it well. Reese said calmly. But you can't guarantee it, can you? Dumbledore was obviously still worried. But Nicholas Flamel's life is more precious, isn't it? Without him, the wizarding world would be like losing a living fossil. This is definitely a huge loss for the entire wizarding world. Aris looked at Dumbledore seriously. Of course, he is my old friend, how can I watch him die without doing anything? It's just... Dumbledore hesitated and finally sighed softly. Perhaps the long years have made my old friend indifferent to many things. This is his choice, and I can't change it. No, we can change, believe me. Aris still looked at Dumbledore persistently, without any retreat in her eyes. You know, in this world, besides you and me, the only one who studies elemental magic is perhaps Nicholas Flamel. His existence will definitely bring us more help. If we give up on letting him live just for Voldemort's possible plans, it would undoubtedly be a cruel and cowardly act. Professor, you should also know the connection between alchemy and elements. Of course I know that. Dumbledore nodded, a thoughtful look in his eyes. In that case, leave the Philosopher's Stone here. I promise to protect it well and no one can take it away from me. Aris looked at Dumbledore with sharp eyes. You will protect it? You mean I will give you the Philosopher's Stone? Dumbledore was stunned. That's right. With the power of Aris and I, no one can take it away from me, not even you, the professor. Aris said this with great confidence. Dumbledore fell silent. He certainly knew Aris's strength. He was surprised more than once by the power of the little red dragon and the boy in front of him. What do you want to do with the Philosopher's Stone? Dumbledore looked at Aris with some confusion. Of course, to do research. Aris answered without any hesitation. So, what is the purpose of the research? Dumbledore continued to ask. This little stone possesses a power that is unimaginable to ordinary people. The art of immortality has always been a difficult problem that the magic world cannot overcome. Only Nicholas Flamel has achieved it. Isn't this worth studying? Aris said as a matter of course. In his opinion, the significance of the Philosopher's Stone is far greater than preventing Voldemort from resurrecting. He couldn't understand why Dumbledore would think of destroying the Philosopher's Stone to prevent Voldemort from resurrecting. This was clearly a case of throwing away the big picture to pick up the sesame seeds. Aris even thought it was a bit silly. Of course, maybe he felt that Voldemort was not a threat. But in Dumbledore's view, Voldemort is the one who stirs up the entire magical world. Preventing his resurrection is the most important thing for the entire magic world, and the Philosopher's Stone that can make people immortal is just a slightly valuable stone in his eyes. After hearing this, Dumbledore fell silent again, and no one knew what he was thinking. Although the art of longevity is very meaningful, it is also the root of human disasters. Are you sure you want to do this? At this time, Dumbledore's expression was very serious, staring straight at Aris. Everything has two sides, and I think the existence of the Philosopher's Stone is the same. Aris pondered for a while, and said slowly, I can't guarantee that the research on the Philosopher's Stone will not cause trouble, but I can guarantee that these troubles will be handled well, Professor, please rest assured. Are you sure? Dumbledore still frowned, this is more difficult than you think. It's just a small stone. How can it be more complicated than elements, magic and magic circles? Aris smiled, with absolute confidence in his smile. Or maybe he had never thought that a small magic stone could stump the magic light brain moss, which was the crystallization of the magic technology of the brilliant magic civilization of another world. It's just used to deal with a small magic stone, so of course there won't be any problems. In that case. Dumbledore waved his hand gently, and the Philosopher's Stone appeared in his palm. I can give this little thing to you, but I hope you can make good use of it. And remember what you said, never forget your original intention, and use it to do something meaningful for the magic world. Of course. Aris looked serious and solemnly took the small stone from Dumbledore's hand. Okay, so what should we do next? Dumbledore smiled again and continued to look around the laboratory with interest. Well, let me think about it. Aris pretended to think, and then a smile appeared on his face. Perhaps, before that, you might want to try the 14th effect of dragon blood wine. No, I have improved the dragon blood soup and researched many different ways to make it. Now the dragon blood has more than 14 effects, at least 20. Hearing this, Dumbledore's eyes suddenly lit up. You really made dragon blood curd? Merlin's beard, this is incredible, let me taste it, this is really good news for me. The silver-haired old wizard was as excited as a child and couldn't wait to walk in front of Aris. In fact, what surprised him the most was Aris, he actually remembered this incident all along. I actually made a delicious dish using the blood of a fire dragon. Well, that's not right. The boy seemed to have just said that he had developed several delicious recipes for cooking dragon's blood. At this moment, Dumbledore was really looking forward to it, and his whole face was full of smiles. Chapter 162. After the weekend, the little wizards of Hogwarts ushered in the most dreaded week, because the final test would be held the next week. Some small stories about how they study hard and seriously at ordinary times. Fortunately, they are now full of confidence and ready to show their talents. But those little wizards who usually don't work hard and like to play around are now in a miserable situation. They want to buy a full set of cheating tools, and they still hold on to luck until the exam. But if they thought about it, they would know that there is no way that the professors at Hogwarts were unaware of those cheating methods. No young wizard could cheat in front of them, not even the Weasley twins. Aris, you have to save us. In the auditorium early Monday morning, Inan found Rhys in a panic. Following behind him was Harry, both of them looked a little nervous and uneasy. It was obvious that they were all worried about the potions exam they were going to have today. What's wrong? Rune, you seem a little too nervous. Aris glanced at the little wizard and shook his head with amusement. I feel like I'm going to fail the course. I felt like Professor Snape glared at me fiercely last night. He's going to make things difficult for me today. Ronald said with a sad face. Snape glared at you. Why? Aris was a little surprised. If Snape really wanted to glare at someone, it should be at Harry Potter, right? After all, there was hardly any young wizard in the entire Hogwarts who didn't know about Professor Snape's targeting of Harry Potter. I think he's glaring at the two of us. Harry took a deep breath and said helplessly, because he knows that we've always suspected him. But how did he know this? Aris was stunned. If you hadn't blown up yourself, there would be no way for Yinpu to know about this from other sources, right? It's so painful, right here. Ronald seemed like he was about to cry. Last night at dinner, Harry and I were talking about the past, and Snape seemed to have heard our conversation. Hearing this, Aris was speechless. No, you two are usually quite cautious. Why are you discussing this kind of thing in the auditorium? At this moment, Aris recalled the incident of Hagrid hatching the dragon eggs. The reason why Snape rushed over seemed to be because Harry and the others were discussing that matter in the hall and were heard by Goyle and Crabbe. Don't they know how to learn their lesson? I think as long as you study hard, Snape won't be able to do anything to you in the final exam. He can't just give you 0 points, right? Hermione's voice sounded at the side, with a hint of indifference. Perhaps in his opinion, the tension between Harry Potter and Ronald was completely unnecessary. Not everyone is as good at their studies as you. I feel even worse when I hear you say that. Ronald looked at Hermione deeply, and his mood seemed to be even worse. Okay, the time is almost up, let's go to the potions classroom. Hermione ignored the two of them and stood up with the quill she would use for the exam and walked towards the potions classroom. Aris shrugged, stuffed the last piece of bread into his mouth, and followed. He had reached an agreement with the professors at the beginning of the semester. Although Aris did not have to attend classes with the first-year students, he had to take the final exam. This is also to ensure that Aris does not neglect his studies throughout the school year. Although this kind of exam didn't mean anything to him. Let's go, Luen, otherwise we will really be late. If we are late for the exam, Snape will probably kill us. Thinking of that result, Harry Potter couldn't help but shudder. Why are we so unlucky? Ronald looked sad and stood up reluctantly. Potions classroom. Snape was already waiting there with the test papers in his hand. The young wizards walked into the classroom one after another to prepare for the exam. At this moment, his eyes turned to the door, and Aris was walking in from the door. After seeing the boy, Snape's face showed a meaningful look. Then he looked behind Aris, just as Harry and Ronald walked in. Let me remind you first, if I find any cheating in this exam, you will fail all your courses this semester. Snape's somewhat cold voice sounded in the classroom, but his eyes were looking at Harry and Ronald, and his tone was somewhat sarcastic. Especially for those guys who think they are heroes, taking exams requires not only mindless courage, but also daily accumulation and a smart brain. If you are smart enough, you won't be so self-righteous as to think that the professors in the school are all fools. Did you hear me clearly? Snape snorted coldly, glanced at all the young wizards in the classroom, and emphasized his tone. I understand. A uniform voice sounded from below. The young wizards were usually very afraid of Snape, and at this critical moment of the exam, no one would be the first to stand out. Okay, let's begin. The test papers on the podium floated up one by one, and then fell on the desks of the little wizards. Afterwards, the only sound in the entire classroom was the rustling sound of a feather pen writing on parchment. Aris glanced at the test paper and found it was just as he expected, not difficult. Some of the questions here were even the ones he had given Hermione before. Although they were not exactly the same, they were very closely related. With the previous prediction of the topic, Hermione's exam should be easier this time. Aris picked up the pen and quickly wrote on the test paper without any pause. Professor, I've finished writing. 15 minutes later, Aris raised his hand. Leave the test paper where it is when you've finished and then go out. Snape glanced at him, Wang Ho, without the slightest bit of surprise. The other little wizards were not surprised at all when they heard Aris' words. After all, when Alex started school, he had already completed all the tests below the 5th grade. It's not surprising that there is such performance now, but most of the young wizards have envy and admiration in their eyes. They all thought to themselves, how great it would be if they were Aris. The world of top students is wonderful even if you only experience it for one day. Especially on exam day. Not far away, Anthony and Terry looked at each other, a hint of determination flashed in their eyes, and then they began to write the test paper quickly. They had set a goal in advance, and they had to be in the top 10 in this exam. Otherwise, all the hard work this school year will be meaningless. They are dreaming about the day of the exam, thinking about how to make a big splash. Chapter 163. In the morning, the young wizards took exams in 2 subjects, potions and charms. At lunchtime, the hall was filled with young wizards discussing their exam results, and Harry Potter and Ronald were no exception. Hermione, what's your answer to the third-to-last question in potions? Tell me quickly, I feel like I got that question wrong. Ronald just sat down and asked Hermione beside him hurriedly. There are 5 steps to configure the confusing water. It is clearly written in the textbook. I think you can go and look it up in the textbook. Hermione obviously didn't want to answer this question, she just kept taking small bites of the cookie bottle on the table. 5 points? I thought there were only 4 points. I will definitely lose points after finishing this question. Harry on the side showed a look of annoyance. Aris, I think the difficulty of this potion lesson is not much different from the questions you asked. Hermione then looked at the boy next to her. In fact, several of the questions are similar to the ones you asked. How did you do it? In fact, there is only so much content in the 1st grade. As long as you read the textbook carefully and understand the main content, you can basically guess what the exam content is. Aris shrugged and said. I don't have such ability, but I still think you are amazing. Hermione's eyes were full of admiration. 860 Aris, you should be able to get full marks, right? Chuan looked at the boy with some envy. If nothing unexpected happens, even the professor may not be able to find any points to deduct from the test Aris did. Harry said with certainty. You guys are exaggerating. Alex smiled and said, I think my answer to the last question might be a little flawed. Well, I'll probably lose 1 or 2 points. Did you do that on purpose? Hermione obviously didn't believe that Aris couldn't answer that question. It's not intentional, it's just that my thoughts are a little different from what's in the book. Well, I think that answer might be more accurate. Aris explained. But exams all have standard answers, don't they? Is this the top student? Ronald stared at Aris with a strange expression. When he was taking the test, he was actually thinking about how to answer the question more perfectly, instead of thinking about the correct answer in the textbook. Ronald said to Harry with some resentment. Perhaps this is the biggest gap between us and pressure for. Harry shook his head helplessly. While several people were discussing, Anthony and Terry's voices suddenly came. Aris, we finished both, Dad, classes this morning in just half an hour. I think we are definitely the students who finished the exams the fastest except for you. Anthony said excitedly. In fact, I turned in my paper about 10 seconds faster than Anthony. Terry said somewhat unconvinced. Have you two forgotten Hermione? Harry reminded, it seems that she only took about 25 minutes to learn charms and finished the exam. Even Professor Flitwick was a little surprised. He probably didn't expect that Xiaolu would be able to answer all the questions so quickly. Of course, I almost forgot, Hermione is really good, he is just a little faster than us. Anthony and Terry shrugged at the same time. It can be seen that your results this semester are very good. If you continue to maintain this, you may be able to catch up with Hermione next semester. Aris said encouragingly. In fact, we have decided that we will not be idle this summer vacation. We have even planned which subjects we will study. Terry said with some pride. Yes, I am also ready to study for the entire summer vacation. When you come to school in September, just wait and see our results. Anthony looked at Ronald provocatively. Do you have to be so curly? Ronald was almost speechless. It's fine that they work so hard in school, but they have to let go of these bad habits during the summer vacation. Where did they come from? If we don't work hard, how can we keep up with Aris? Anthony shrugged and said firmly. Okay, case solved. Ronald looked at Aris with resentment. The reason why these people became so stubborn was because of this guy. I heard that Professor McGonagall has not stopped for a moment this semester. He goes to the library whenever he has time, and even hands over some of the school affairs to Professor Snape and Professor Flitwick. I heard that the Vice President is currently working on some theoretical problems of magic, and is very persistent. Professor Flitwick also went to the library more often. Many young wizards could hardly see him even after class. He was so secretive that no one knew what he was doing. It seems that since Aris came to school, both professors and students have become more stubborn, and I don't know why. For this reason, Ronald even specifically asked Fred and George, and it was obvious that Hogwarts was completely different in the past. At that time, the young wizards even had the leisure to discuss which shops in Hogsmeade were more interesting. Now, not to mention the first-year wizards, even some of the second-year wizards rarely go to Hogsmeade on weekends and basically stay in the library. It's hard to imagine this being Hogwarts. Okay, you guys eat, I'm going to the lounge. After Aris finished eating, he said hello to a few people and stood up. The afternoon exam will start in about half an hour. Why are you going back to the common room? Hermione asked curiously. Of course, go take a rest. Aris said as a matter of course. But is there enough time? Hermione asked doubtfully, obviously thinking Aris might have other plans. Well, that should be fine. Aris didn't explain any more and just stood up and left the auditorium. In fact, he was not going to the lounge, but to the principal's office. Because there were some things he wanted to talk to Dumbledore about again, about Grindelwald. Time passed quickly and the Hogwarts exam was soon over. But in fact, at most there are only 4 days. Next, the little wizards can choose to go back first. The school can send the test results back to the family as owl birthday gifts. But most of the little wizards don't want to do this, because they are eager to know the results, and if they send home bad results, they will definitely be severely punished by their parents. But after Aris finished his exam, he decided to go back first, because Luna was waiting for him at home, and the little girl couldn't wait to go to Diagon Alley to buy school supplies. Because in September, she will report to Hogwarts with Aris. Another reason is because of Grindelwald. The old man has sent 2 letters by owl, both asking when Aris will leave school. In addition, the letter also mentioned that Grindelwald had prepared another surprise for Aris. This made Aris even more confused. What on earth has the old wizard been doing all this time? Why do you seem very busy? 2 surprises are also prepared. Chapter 164. Welcome home, Master Aris. When Aris appeared at Shafik Castle, the maid Shirley had already been waiting for him at the castle gate, and standing next to him was Henry Barton, who was now the castle's butler. Master, we didn't expect you to come back so soon, so we didn't prepare anything to eat at home. Can we just have something to eat tonight? Henry looked at Aris nervously. It was his fault for not preparing everything in advance. It doesn't matter, as long as I can fill my stomach. Aris said with a smile. He was not a person who liked to waste money, not to mention that he was alone. Including the servants, there were only Henry and Shirley, and 2 elf castles there was actually not much inside. So there is no need to have a lavish dinner. Okay, Master, I'll ask Snoopy and the others to prepare dinner. As he said that, Henry trotted into the castle, and Shirley took the luggage from Alex and followed slowly behind him. He looked at the young master walking in front of him and secretly made a comparison in his mind. It seemed that over such a period of time, the young master had grown taller, and his appearance and temperament had become more masculine and less childish. At this time, Aris was nearly 1.5 meters tall, which was quite good for a 12-year-old. Seeing Aris acting more and more like a little adult, Shirley's eyebrows curved into a smile, and she seemed very happy. Shirley, has anyone come to visit the castle during this period? Aris suddenly asked. Yes, Master. Shirley said without thinking, Lucius Malfoy often comes to report on his work. Although the Master is not here, he will report these things to Henry. Also, an old wizard has visited our house recently, but he seemed to know that the young Master was not at home, so he just asked a question at the door and left every time. Old wizard. A figure flashed through Aris' mind. Is it Grindelwald? What does he look like? Alex stopped, turned around and looked at Swalia in a daze and asked. Well, short silver-white hair, eyes that are a bit strange, occasionally flashing silver light, and a very good temperament, looks like someone who has been in a high position for a long time, and is very polite. Swalia recalled for a moment and quickly gave her general impression and appearance of the teacher. It's Grindelwald after all. Aris was sure that based on Shelia's description, the image looked too much like Grindelwald. Didn't he say what it was specifically about? Aris asked again. No, every time he just asked, is the young master here? And then he left after knowing that you were not there. Swalia said affirmatively. I understand. Alex nodded slightly and fell into deep thought. In fact, he had thought about why Grindelwald escaped from the Nermangard Tower. Was it really just because of him? But because there was too little information, he was never able to come to any conclusion. There is very little mention of Grindelwald in the original Harry Potter series, and Alex can only roughly know some of the character traits of this great devil from the Fantastic Beasts series. He was an extremely confident and ambitious man. He said that he would break his promise and even give up his self-esteem for one person. Aris found it a little hard to believe. But after meeting Grindelwald last time, he could feel that most of what the old wizard said was true and he was not lying. It's a wonderful feeling. It was as if, at the moment their prophetic visions intersected, he could sense Grindelwald's deepest emotions and thoughts. In fact, this is also what Aris is confused about. Would such a confident and ambitious person really be willing to submit to another person? We need to look into this matter later. Master, you seem to be worried about something. Shirley noticed that Aris seemed to be in a bad mood. It's okay, let's go eat. Aris smiled and then walked briskly into the castle. Yes, Master. Shirley also smiled. As a maid, she knew very well what she should and should not do. Since the young master didn't continue this topic, he must not want to continue discussing it, so she shouldn't continue. A moment later, Aris came to the restaurant. Looking at the table full of food, he looked at Henry puzzledly. Is this what you said, no food prepared? Alex was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. The food is enough for at least 10 people, and it has a wide variety of dishes, very rich. According to family tradition, the standard meal for the host at home is 20 different foods, which may include but are not limited to desserts, snacks, staple foods, special dishes, etc. But there are less than 15 kinds here, so there must be some missing. Henry explained to Aris with a smile. This is too much. How can I eat so much by myself? Aris shook his head helplessly. Okay, come and eat with us. He waved to Henry and Shirley. Master, according to the regulations, we cannot. Henry was about to refuse when he was interrupted by Huang Si. I have the final say here. If I tell you to eat together, then eat together. Don't talk nonsense. Having said that, he sat down at the dining table and started to enjoy the delicious dinner. Seeing this scene, Henry and Swadey looked at each other, and had no choice but to sit at the dining table and eat with Aris. About half an hour later, dinner was over and Aris came outside the castle. He looked in the direction of the castle gate and muttered thoughtfully, "It feels like there are guests visiting." "Are there guests?" Henry looked towards the castle gate in confusion. He did not hear the doorbell or any other sound. "Well, I'm pretty sure someone is." Aris walked towards the castle gate and waved to Henry. "You don't have to follow me. That old guy is here to see me. I think we may need to go out for a while. I will take care of it." "Yes, young master." Henry bowed slightly and nodded without much hesitation. He knew Aris's strength. Ordinary wizards were no match for him, not to mention the existence of the dark red dragon Aris. There are probably not many people in the entire wizarding world who can pose a threat to Aris. Watching the boy's back gradually disappear into the night, Henry turned and returned to the castle. At the castle gate. At this time, a figure in a black gentleman's suit was standing there quietly. He had half-long silver hair that just covered his ears. He looked quite old, but his posture was still upright, revealing a confident and self-deprecating aura. Grindelwald. Aris looked at the figure standing outside through the castle gate and exclaimed in surprise. "Long time no see, Aris." Grindelwald smiled, then looked at the boy kindly and gently and said, "I really can't wait any longer. Do you remember the 2 surprises I told you about? I thought you might be of some interest." Chapter 165. What on earth are you playing? I don't think you're the type to enjoy surprises. Aris looked at Grindelwald with confusion in her eyes. "You'll know in a moment, come with me." Grindelwald didn't explain much, but just stretched out his hand, as if he wanted Aris to apparate with him. Aris hesitated for a moment, then took Grindelwald's hand and said, "I just got home. I didn't want to make such a fuss, but I'm really curious about what you call a surprise. I promise you will like it very much." Grindelwald blinked, and the next second, a crisp crackling sound was heard, and the 2 disappeared on the spot. When they appeared again, they were already outside an old house. Judging from the surrounding buildings, it should still be in England, but this place is quite remote, surrounded by wilderness, and there is no June 17th smoke. "Where is this?" Aris turned around and asked. "It's in a little-known town. No one has been to this house for a long time. I once stayed here for a while." Grindelwald explained, and then walked straight to the old house. "Have you been there before?" Aris looked at the old house in front of him. The house had a history of at least 100 years. The past he mentioned couldn't be decades ago, before he was imprisoned in the Nurmengard Tower. Thinking of this, Aris took a deep breath. What on earth has this guy been doing all this time? Why did he return to the place he had been before? Could he be? "Are you planning to do something big again?" At this moment, Aris was actually a little nervous, mainly because what this old man had done was so worrying. "Hurry up and catch up. What are you thinking about?" Seeing that Aris was still standing there, Grindelwald turned around and urged. Aris had no choice but to follow. "Sir, you're back." A voice came as soon as I walked into the old house. The voice was obviously a bit old, and it seemed that the person who was speaking was already very old. "This is Siri Sharaf, one of my former followers. He came here after hearing that I had returned." There was a hint of pride in Grindelwald's tone, and Aris even heard a hint of complacency in it, as if he was showing off something. He didn't understand what was there to brag about. This Mr. Sharaf must be in his 70s or 80s. Now that he has come back to follow you, what else can he do? Should he be sent to fight those young wizards? Aris couldn't help but complain in his heart. But he did not attack Grindelwald directly. To be honest, he still had no idea what this person was trying to do. "Have everyone been notified?" Grindelwald looked at Sharaf and asked. "I've already notified them, sir, they'll be here soon." Sharaf replied respectfully. "Them? Are there others coming?" Aris couldn't help but wonder, did this old man gather other people? Does he really want to go back to his old ways and turn the current world upside down again? Regardless of whether he has the ability or not, Dumbledore will not just watch him fool around like this, right? Aris recalled what Dumbledore said to him before leaving school, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Things seem to be getting more and more interesting. Will these two happy enemies continue to fight each other at this age? That would be really interesting. Aris, come in, let's have some tea first. Grindelwald waved his wand gently, and the tea set in the living room began to brew tea automatically. Then, a cup of black tea slowly floated in front of Alex, with some tea leaves floating on it. The quality of this tea may not be very good. The old man's life is not going well. He even uses such low-quality tea. Grindelwald obviously didn't know what Aris was thinking. He picked up the tea and took a sip, with a comfortable smile on his face. Aris also picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then he was surprised to find that although the tea did not look very good, it tasted quite fragrant. Mr. Grindelwald, what exactly do you want to do? Aris had lost her patience and asked directly. I want to give you a gift. This gift will definitely satisfy you. I believe that with this gift, you will be more at home in the entire wizarding world. Grindelwald still kept it a secret and didn't answer Aris directly. The gift you mentioned isn't to introduce your former followers to me, right? Aris asked tentatively, frowning. In fact, ever since he walked into the house and saw Sheriff, he already had a vague guess in his mind, but he was just not quite sure. Why, you don't like this gift? Grindelwald asked thoughtfully. Really? Aris shook his head helplessly and said, those followers of yours should be quite old now, right? You are gathering them together and introducing them to me now. I don't quite understand what your intention is. Do you think they are useless? Grindelwald looked at Aris with a smile. That's not what I meant. Aris shrugged, I just think they are so old now, they shouldn't be tossed around like this anymore, it's not good for them, isn't it? They all followed me voluntarily. No one forced them. So what you said about tossing and turning is actually not accurate. We just came together for common goals and ideals. If not, my current status and power might not be enough to convince them. Grindelwald is indeed a master of bewitching people and a very charismatic leader. As soon as he opened his mouth, he used high-end pua words. Just look at the way Sheriff looked at him. This old man's infectiousness is still 0.4, which is as good as before. Mr. Shafik, you are the one that Mr. Grindelwald mentioned, the one who can change the future of the wizarding world, right? At this time, Sheriff on the side suddenly spoke, while secretly hitting Aris. Change the future of the wizarding world. Aris raised her eyebrows and looked at Grindelwald. Is this how you introduce me to your followers? I think that's fine. Grindelwald shrugged. We all saw that future, didn't we? As soon as he finished speaking, there was a burst of crackling sounds outside the house, as if many people were disappearing at the same time. Then, the door of the house was pushed open again, and figures walked in one after another. After seeing those people, Aris's gaze paused slightly, and then his expression became solemn. These people don't seem to be simple. Chapter 166. Anton Vogel. Abernathy. Roger. Alanis Brock. The people in front of him were not simple. Among them, there were at least 3 people Aris knew who were still working in the Ministry of Magic. Moreover, they were all highly qualified and had a say in the Ministry of Magic in various fields. Especially Anton Vogel, the Minister of Magic during Grindelwald's time, who still has many supporters even now, and he has a very large and complex network of relationships within the Ministry of Magic. For example, the current Minister of Magic Fudge once benefited from this person, and the two should have a very good relationship in private. Not to mention that most of the pure-blood families in the wizarding world have intermarriages, especially those that have continued to this day. Once these people go out, they have their own means and connections and should not be underestimated. Aris also didn't expect that Grindelwald's so-called followers would be these people. He originally thought that they were just some unknown people, like Voldemort's followers, a group of brainless people. If these were the people Grindelwald was going to introduce, it would indeed be a big surprise. With these people's network, it will be much easier for Aris to act in the Wizard Festival in the future, and it's not just cause and effect, the same is true for France and the United States. 30 Because these are influential people in the ministries of magic of various countries. Welcome, everyone. After everyone entered the room, Grindelwald stood up and stretched out his hands to hug everyone. Those people all had smiles on their faces, and it was obvious that they had already known the news of Grindelwald's return. And to be able to come here, they must have already talked to Grindelwald. and a certain consensus was reached. I think you have all met Aris. He is the only heir of the Shafik family and a very outstanding little wizard. Grindelwald turned sideways and let Aris behind him be seen by everyone. This little wizard, is he the one Mr. Grindelwald was talking about? Is this a mistake? He looks like he just started magic school. The little guy looks quite energetic, but are you kidding me if you say he can change the future of the wizarding world? Mr. Grindelwald, I think we all need an explanation. When the group of people saw Aris, their brows slightly furrowed. It was obvious that Aris was completely different from the person they had imagined to be the one who would stir up the future of the wizarding world. How could they possibly believe that a little wizard who was only 12 years old could influence the future of the entire wizarding world? Everyone, please be patient. Grindelwald spoke calmly, his eyes swept across the crowd, and he said with great certainty, "You are not mistaken, he is the man, the one who can change the future of the wizarding world, or even the entire world. I can tell you responsibly that in the future I predict, he will stand at the top of the world, recreate the rules of this world, and bring about an unprecedented revolution. You may not know that although he is young now, even I don't dare to say that I can beat him with my experience." After saying that, Grindelwald looked at Aris and blinked gently. Aris knew that it was time for him to make his debut. But he didn't know what to say. Facing these old monsters who had turned into human spirits, he felt that no matter how much he said, it would be meaningless. If they are sure that they are not capable of it, or if they do not approve of themselves, then no matter how much you say, it will be in vain. In this case, Aris chuckled and then said to the old wizards, "I don't like the way you look at me, with arrogance and knowledge. In fact, I didn't even think about asking you to believe me, because before this, I didn't even know that I would meet you today. The reason I came here was just because of Grindelwald's invitation. In the spirit of respecting the old and loving the young, I will not pursue your rude discussion and attitude just now. Now please move aside, I'm leaving." After saying that, Alex took a calm step and walked out of the house. "Wait, what do you mean?" A voice called Aris, with a slightly questioning tone. "You said we are arrogant and ignorant? Then do you know the identities of these people present? How dare you, a little brat, say such a thing?" The former Minister of Magic Anton Vogel spoke in a stiff tone and stretched out his hand to stop Alex, who was about to leave. "You have no manners at all, Mr. Grindelwald. I'm afraid you've made a mistake this time. How can a little wizard who hasn't even grown all his hair lead us to change the landscape of the wizarding world? It's ridiculous. I think this trip was in vain. Mr. Grindelwald, we respect you because you are ambitious and capable, but now it seems that decades of imprisonment in the Nurmengard Tower have made you lose too much." One voice after another came out from the mouths of those wizards, carrying a hint of arrogance and ridicule. Even Alex did not expect that these people were not completely loyal to Grindelwald, but seemed to be in a cooperative relationship. It is understandable if you think about it. Even if these people were once followers of Grindelwald, their attitudes may have changed after so many years. Especially since most of these people have been in high positions for a long time, they have probably almost forgotten the horror of Grindelwald. "Shut up!" At this time, Sheriff suddenly roared, and his old body seemed to burst out with some amazing power, glaring at the old wizards with mocking faces. "How dare you speak so disrespectfully to Mr. Grindelwald? Have you forgotten the purpose of coming here, or do you want to try the fear of being dominated by the Master again?" At this time, Grindelwald reached out to stop Sheriff from continuing to speak, shook his head and said, "Don't be angry, they are right, I have indeed been imprisoned in the Nurmengard Tower for too long. So much so that I'm afraid very few people in this world know my name. However, it's okay for you to look down on me, but you shouldn't insult this boy." As soon as his voice fell, an invisible force suddenly arose in the room. The force indiscriminately tore the furniture in the house, and in an instant the whole house became a ruin. "Don't get excited, Mr. Grindelwald." A group of old wizards quickly raised their wands and set up protective shields in front of them. Flying debris hit the protective shield, creating ripples. "We don't mean to look down on this boy, but up to now, he really hasn't shown any talent or ability, right?" Anton Vogel spoke up quickly. After hearing this, Grindelwald's breath slowly calmed down, and the invisible force around him also slowly subsided. The torn furniture began to be pieced together again and returned to its original state. "Aris, are you really going to just watch them insult and ignore you?" Grindelwald frowned slightly as he looked at the boy. As far as he knew, the boy was not the type to just accept things as they came. It is impossible for someone that Grindelwald likes to be so temperless. Of course, not. I'm just a little disappointed. Senior, is this the surprise you prepared for me? Aris slowly turned his head and looked at the old wizards who were frightened and a little shaken with a smile, and said slowly, "And, Senior, after all these years of not doing anything, you seem to have become more merciful." Chapter 167. Little guy, what do you mean by this? Anton Vogel asked with a somewhat unhappy tone. You are so young, but you are so arrogant. You even dare to lecture Mr. Grindelwald. For some reason, I always feel uncomfortable listening to this little guy talking. As Aris spoke, all the old wizards looked over again. They all looked a little unfriendly. What I mean is actually very simple. Alex looked at those old wizards, and the smile on his face became more and more intense. The next second, he gently stretched out his hand and pressed down, and then a terrifying force appeared out of thin air and directly enveloped the entire room. The powerful magic seemed to have the power of rules, which made all the old wizards' legs go weak and they knelt on the ground. At this moment, Alex's eyes became sharper and he looked at the group of old wizards indifferently. That's what I mean. His tone was emotionless and indifferent. You were all followers of our predecessors. Now you heard the news that our predecessors had returned, and chose to come here. But your attitude shows that you don't take our seniors seriously at all. This is not the territory of your Ministry of Magic, but the place of our seniors. Do you think that the senior has no deterrent power now, or do you think that he is old and you can ignore his words? What annoys me the most is, do I know you? Why do you say such things about me? Why do you treat me like that? Aris's eyes slowly swept across the group of old wizards, and finally landed on Anton Vogel. Especially you, do you still think you are the once invincible Minister of Magic? Even if you once controlled the entire Ministry of Magic, you are still just a follower of Senior Grindelwald. What qualifications do you have to talk to Senior Grindelwald like this? As he spoke, Aris pressed his palms again, and the huge magical power surged again, pressing the kneeling bodies of the old wizards straight to the ground, unable to move. Stop, stop, stop it now. Anton Vogel tried hard to raise his head, and his throat made a hoarse sound. Apologize. Alex said lightly, with no intention of letting them go. I'm sorry, it's our attitude that's wrong. I apologize. We apologize. It was our fault, we took it for granted and didn't see your great power. Please forgive us and give us another chance. Mr. Shafik, we were wrong. The old wizards trembled slightly under the intimidation of Aris's powerful strength. The last time they felt this kind of power was perhaps in Voldemort, or perhaps in the young Grindelwald. The magic power that Aris exploded at this time deeply stimulated them, making them realize that they were wrong, and extremely wrong. The boy in front of me is not just an 11-year-old boy, but a powerful being like Grindelwald in his youth, or even Voldemort. Just the riot of this magical power made these old wizards tremble in their hearts. I no longer have the urge to resist. You should apologize to your predecessors. Faced with the old wizard's compromise, Aris did not let them go and spoke again. Mr. Grindelwald, we were wrong. Please forgive us and give us another chance. Excuse me, sir. We were wrong, so wrong. The old wizards reacted quickly and looked in the direction of Grindelwald with all their strength, their voices filled with panic. How could they dare to look down on Grindelwald or the 11-year-old boy in front of them at this moment? Oh. That's not right. Alex is already 12 years old. Let them go. Grindelwald looked at Aris and spoke slowly. At this moment, his eyes were full of admiration. Looking at Aris, he seemed to see himself when he was young, so high-spirited, so talented, and so outstanding. At this moment, he was even more certain that he had not misjudged the person, nor had he made the wrong decision. This boy was the one he was looking for, the one who could lead the wizarding world into the future and even create a perfect world where wizards and muggles could coexist in his ideal world. Over the years, on the Tower of Nurmengard, he thought a lot and gradually figured out some things. It is simply impossible to eliminate muggles or become the master of this world by relying solely on the power of the wizarding world. In the past, he was too arrogant and underestimated the power of muggles. That was the original sin of his failure. If you want to truly change the world and allow wizards to live a better life in the future, it is definitely not something that can be accomplished by provoking a war. This is the stupidest way. He had never thought of it at the time. Fortunately, he has figured it out now, and has found someone who can realize his vision for the future. The boy in front of him is his future, and the future of the entire wizarding world. Senior, I'm leaving now. You can handle these people yourself. Aris slowly withdrew his right hand, nodded to Grindelwald, and walked out of the room. Then, a crackling sound was heard, and Aris disappeared completely outside the house. Only then did the old wizards in the room stand up with lingering fear. They looked in the direction Aris left, with a hint of fear in their eyes. At the same time, more shocking. An 11-year-old boy possesses such powerful magic that he can make them lie prone on the ground without any resistance. He can also easily use apparition, a magic that only students in the 5th grade and above at Hogwarts can start learning. This boy is not simple at all. What's funny is that they actually insulted the boy like that before and thought Grindelwald had a problem with his vision. They thought it was a joke. Now it seems that these people are a joke. After living to such an old age, their vision of people has become so bad. Do you have anything else to say now? Aris looked at the old wizard present and asked lightly. Old wizards, you looked at me, I looked at you and lowered your heads, not daring to speak. Do you think this is the boy's full strength? Grindelwald looked at those old wizards and couldn't help but smile, with a hint of pride. Seeing Aris's performance in front of these old wizards, he actually felt particularly comfortable, as if his own child had made progress. Maybe you need to get to know him again, if you still have that chance. Having said that, Grindelwald did not say anything else and turned and walked out of the living room. A group of old wizards were left looking at each other in bewilderment, not knowing what to do. Chapter 168. It was already late at night when we returned to Shawfik Castle. Swalia was still waiting for him. She helped him wash up, watched him walk into the room, and then left. This little girl is growing better and better. We can't let her help me take a bath in the future. Aris didn't let out a sigh of relief until Shirley left the room. He almost made a mistake when he was taking a shower just now. Or rather, if conditions had permitted, he might have already made the mistake. The contrast between Shirley's figure and appearance is so strong. Her pure and enchanting allure is so deadly. Although Aris' body is just that of a 12-year-old boy now, his soul has lived 2 lifetimes and he naturally has the thoughts that an adult man should have. Wait a little longer, when this body grows a little bigger, I will definitely not treat little Aris badly. Taking a deep breath, Aris turned his gaze to the bookshelf in the room. He would read for a while every day as usual, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes for a whole night. Of course, most of the time Aris would make sure to get enough sleep, after all, his body couldn't afford it. He also didn't want his body to become as fragile as in his previous life. Although his physical fitness has been greatly improved after being tempered by dragon blood, that is 430 full vats of dragon blood Dumbledore has in stock. Now thinking about it, Aristotle couldn't help but sigh that this old man was really a good person. Unfortunately, although the dragon blood can improve physical fitness, it is not particularly obvious. It is obviously just wishful thinking to hope that the bodies will become like human-shaped beasts after being tempered with dragon blood in novels. As long as I can improve, it's always good. Just as Aris was reading, there was a sound of flapping wings outside the window. It was an owl. Perhaps it saw Aris's window was open and flew in directly. It looks like the Hogwarts owl. Aris stretched out his hand, and the owl landed on the desk and stretched out its claws. Is this a letter from Hermione? Aris opened the envelope and read it. There was a lot of content in the letter, but it mainly consisted of Hermione's small complaints about Aris leaving school early, and the results of the House Cup. As Aris expected, the winner of the Hogwarts House Cup this school year is still Gryffindor, followed by Ravenclaw Slytherin in 3rd place, and finally Hufflepuff. The reason why Gryffindor was able to win the House Cup was naturally due to the outstanding performance of the 3 saviors and Dumbledore's slight favoritism. You know, he was originally from Gryffindor, so he naturally hopes that Gryffindor can win the House Cup. This old man is actually a protective person, especially towards Gryffindor students. The fact that Ravenclaw was able to take 2nd place was purely due to Aris's efforts. The news of his successful defeat of Professor Quirrell and Voldemort had spread throughout the school, and everyone knew that he had saved the entire school. Therefore, his actions earned Ravenclaw 100 points when the house was settled. Even though Gryffindor added 160 points, it was only a narrow win of 5 points. Slytherin was even worse off, as they were only 5 points lower than Ravenclaw, which made all Slytherin students very upset and angry. The points difference between the 3 colleges is only 5 points, which is a rare situation in previous college cups. Therefore, the auditorium was particularly lively tonight. Unfortunately, Aris did not see any of this with his own eyes, but just from reading Hermione's letter, he could feel the excitement like riding a roller coaster. At last, Hermione wrote in her letter, "I will go to Diagon Alley the second week after the holiday. I hope to see you there. I will miss you all summer long." At the last sentence, Aris saw a slight pause on the note, and even some ink spread there. Obviously, when writing that sentence, Hermione might have been a little shy, or perhaps a little hesitant. After seeing this, Aris smiled slightly. He could even imagine that when the little witch wrote this sentence, her face must have been slightly flushed, daft, which was very cute. The results of the college cup were somewhat biased after all. This is because of the butterfly effect caused by my existence. After putting the letter down, Aris's expression became a little serious. He looked at the envelope in front of him thoughtfully. Not only this time, but also the previous advance of Voldemort's action, it is also possible that the butterfly effect was caused by something he did. This made Aris realize that what he had been worried about had happened. In the original book, Voldemort's soul was not exiled, but escaped from the basement. Since then, he lingered on for several years until he was resurrected in his 4th year by collecting Harry Potter's blood through the Triwizard Tournament. But now that Voldemort's remaining soul has been exiled by Aris, the trajectory of everything has changed, and the way Voldemort returns will also change. Now Aris doesn't even know if Voldemort will come back. The only thing that is certain is that he still has several Horcruxes, so there must be a way for him to come back. But even Aris couldn't guess how that guy would return to the wizarding world in the end. The trajectory of the original work has been changed. Now it will become more difficult for Aris to control the overall situation. Of course, all this is just the worst outcome. The reason why Aris exiled Voldemort's remaining soul was because he wanted to take a gamble. I bet that guy will never come back, and will be torn to pieces by the rift between time and space and the powerful force, leaving no trace. In this case, all they need to do is find the remaining Horcruxes, and then, destroy them, and Voldemort will completely disappear from this world. But is everything really that simple? Aris sighed softly. It seems like I made a wrong decision. I shouldn't have exiled Voldemort so easily. At least I have to make sure he is completely gone before I can rest assured. In fact, Aris had thought carefully about how to deal with the remnant soul. He had studied many ways to deal with souls. Soul exile was just one of them, but it was also the safest way. Voldemort's soul is no different from that of an ordinary wizard. It is more powerful and more mysterious, otherwise he would not have been able to occupy Voldemort's body for so long without being discovered by Dumbledore. One has to admit that he is a very powerful opponent, and there are probably few people in the entire wizarding world who can fight against him. Forget it, let's take it one step at a time. Now we can only make some preparations in advance. Well, having a housekeeper live in the garden is a good idea. Thinking of this, Aris made a decision in his heart. There is something that must be done during this summer vacation. Promote the butler manor to the entire wizarding world and install the surveillance system in every courtyard of every wizarding family. Although this is a bit unfair, if you just filter certain keywords and monitor those keywords, like Voldemort's name, it shouldn't be a big problem. Chapter 169. The next morning, Aris was woken up by Shirlea. This was the first time Aris slept in since he came into this world. It's so comfortable to be able to sleep in peacefully without having to go to class or research. At this time, Aris suddenly felt a little resentful. Why didn't his system have to rely on learning and reading to become stronger? The king of volumes system. I am so tired. After stretching gently, Aris looked at Shirlea and asked, "You usually don't bother me, what's going on today?" "Master, someone is already waiting for you in the hall," Shirlea said respectfully. She bent slightly, revealing a large area of white skin in front of Aris, without any shyness, or perhaps she was not aware of the problem at all. Aris retracted his gaze, raised his head silently, and looked at the girl's face. It's simply a sin. However, Aris was a little confused at this time and asked, "Who is it that comes to visit so early?" "Mr. Fudge, Minister of Magic." Kelly raised her head and said calmly. It seemed that she was used to seeing too many people of status coming to Shawfik Castle, so she now looked at this kind of thing very calmly. "It's him, why is he here?" Aris frowned slightly and fell into deep thought for a moment. He was very sure that he had not had any contact with the Minister of Magic during this period, and the two had not exchanged any letters. Going back further, they had met once before at Christmas, which was a long time ago. Did he say why he came to visit? Aris asked again. No, I heard that you are still sleeping and he is not in a hurry. He is sitting in the living room drinking tea now, said Shwelaya. I understand. I'll be there right away. Aris nodded slightly and stood up to wash up. Let me help you, young master. Shwelaya hurriedly prepared toiletries. Half an hour later, Aris arrived at the living room and saw Minister of Magic Fudge from afar. He was sitting there drinking tea and didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Aris was even more puzzled. This man was a well-known busy man, responsible for most of the affairs of the Ministry of Magic. How could he have the leisure to drink tea here so leisurely? Mr. Minister, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were coming in advance and couldn't greet you. I'm really sorry for making you wait for so long. Aris walked forward quickly and spoke apologetically. Oh, it's Mr. Shafik. It's nice to see you. I hope my presumptuous visit didn't disturb you. Fudge seemed to be in a very good mood. After waiting for so long, he still had a smile on his face. Mr. Minister, what brings you here today? Aris was even more confused at this time, and had no idea why the minister came. Mr. Shafik, since you asked me, I won't beat around the bush. Fudge's eyes became serious and his tone became heavier. Do you still remember the manor steward you gave me last time? Fudge's eyes gleamed as he said this. Of course, I would like to visit you in person during this period to ask about your experience. Aris said sincerely. No, how can I trouble you to come here in person? I came here just to discuss this matter with you. This is definitely a good thing for the Shafik family and for you. Fudge became more and more excited as he spoke, and the light in his eyes became brighter and brighter. I don't quite understand what you mean. Aris frowned slightly. He suddenly felt something strange. The Minister of Magic's behavior seems a little abnormal. It seems, he wants to ask me to do something. This is too exaggerated. This is the Minister of Magic in the wizarding world. Is there anything he can't do? If he came to do business with me, maybe there is a possibility. Wait, he doesn't really want to do business with me, does he? Master Aris, to be honest, I came here this time to inquire about the promotion of manor housekeepers in the wizarding world. You said earlier that this product can be mass-produced and popularized in the wizarding world. Is that true? That's right. Aris nodded gently, but this may take some time. After all, the production process of the manor butler is very complicated, involving alchemy, spell reinforcement and various production processes. Although I have been constantly improving and researching, and have made considerable progress, it may take some time for mass production. I understand. This is a genius work. It is absolutely subversive. It is perfect. For such a perfect product, it is worth spending as much time as you can on researching it, and it is not too much. As long as we are sure that the manor steward can be mass-produced and promoted to the entire magic world, that will be enough. We can wait. Fudge said this with some excitement, waving his hands constantly, looking very excited. So, what I want to know is, how are you going to sell such a perfect product? Fudge suddenly changed the subject, looking at Aris with a hint of expectation in his eyes. Does the minister have any suggestions? Aris looked at Fudge with a half-smile. He now understood that the Minister of Magic really wanted to take over the manor's steward, and his ambition seemed quite big. It seems that the minister really liked the gift I gave him last time. Aris herself had not expected that the manor butler made by Moss would be so powerful and be so highly praised by the Minister of Magic. Master Aris, I have been thinking about this problem for some time. In fact, if you can cooperate with the Ministry of Magic, I can ensure that the manor butler can be popularized throughout the wizarding world at the fastest speed. Of course, the final popularity depends on the price of this thing, which is very important. You have to know that many people in the magic world are still struggling to make ends meet. If this thing is sold too expensively, the market will definitely be small. Fudge's tone was dead serious. After trying it out for a while, he already had a very comprehensive understanding of the performance and function of the manor steward, and he was well aware that this thing was not simple. To take the simplest example, every manor steward can communicate with each other. In other words, as long as this thing becomes popular, some orders and measures of the Ministry of Magic can be issued in real time through the manor steward. Not only that, the manor butler also has an image retention function. Even if the owner of the manor is not at home, the image retention function can clearly know who has approached the manor. This feature is extremely convenient for people like Fudge, as he no longer has to worry about people with ulterior motives lingering outside his house. You don't have to worry about someone breaking into your home illegally after you leave. Everything becomes quick and convenient, safe and secure. So Master Alex, what do you think of my proposal? Fudge looked at Boy 6 with a hint of anticipation. Chapter 170. I think the minister's proposal is very good. Aris said without any hesitation, I have been wondering what channels the manor steward will use to sell it. If I only promote it through the businesses under my Shafik family, it will probably take a lot of time. For businessmen, time is equal to wealth. After the manor steward is released, it is natural that the sooner it is recognized by the market, the better. If the Ministry of Magic endorses this product, I think Manor Butler will definitely become popular in the entire wizarding world at the fastest speed. Aris' eyes also lit up. Fudge's proposal really touched his heart. He had no reason to refuse. Although in this way, the profits from the sale of the Manor Steward will inevitably be divided, but having the Ministry of Magic promote this product is equivalent to having an official department endorse 607. This will surely allow Manor Butlers to spread to every corner of the magic world at the fastest speed without any hindrance. This is what Aris wants most. He didn't have that much time to do this, because Voldemort could come back at any time. Yesterday he was still thinking about how to send the Manor Steward out. I didn't expect that Fudge would send me good news today. It's true that when I feel sleepy, someone will send me a pillow. Since Master Aris agrees so much, can we finalize our cooperation? It can be seen that Fudge was also very excited at this moment, and the smile on his face never stopped. That's great. Aris nodded affirmatively. If you agree, we can even sign the contract right away. Of course, this is a win-win situation, isn't it? Ambush nodded affirmatively. Then, now there is one last question. When can the Manor Steward be put into mass production? You thought about it and raised a finger. 1 year. Fudge asked tentatively. 1 month. Aris said affirmatively, give me another month, and I can provide you with 10,000 sets of manor housekeepers. I just wonder if the minister will think this number is too small. 10,000 sets a month. Ambush's eyes widened, his tone full of surprise. Before this, he was even prepared. If Aris said it would take a year to mass-produce the Manor Butler, he would be able to accept it. Unexpectedly, Alex could provide 10,000 sets in just 1 month. These 10,000 sets of manor housekeepers are probably enough for every family in the entire wizarding world to use, of course, that's if those people can afford it. In other words, Aris already has the ability to mass-produce manor housekeepers? That's great, 10,000 sets will be enough. Fudge nodded excitedly. So how much are you going to sell it for? Aris thought about it, combined with the cost of materials produced by the manor housekeeper, and gave a number. How do you think about 100 gold galleons per set? 100 gold galleons? So cheap. Fudge showed a surprised expression. How is this possible? Such a perfect product only costs 100 gold galleons. Fudge's face was full of disbelief. 100 gold galleons is actually equivalent to a family's monthly income, or for those with better conditions, half a month's income is enough to afford it. Aris sold such a perfect product at such a low price, which was totally unexpected by Fuji. The production cost of the Manor Steward is about 50 gold galleons. Adding the promotion fee and sales channel fee, our net profit is about 30 to 40 gold galleons. I know that if it is a normal business, this is actually not profitable, but I understand your thoughts very well, Mr. Fudge. To you, a Manor Steward should not only be a commodity, but also a project to improve the infrastructure of the entire wizarding world. I feel very honored to be able to contribute to the wizarding world. What does it matter if I earn less? The last thing the Shafik family lacks is money, right? Aris smiled and expressed his thoughts. In fact, whether the Manor Steward could make money or not really didn't matter to him. This is just a little gadget made by the magic light brain moss. He can make something like this anytime he wants. His goal was to spread Manor Stewards throughout the wizarding world as quickly as possible, so as to monitor any signs of Voldemort's possible return. This is why he wants to cooperate with Fudge. If it is just to make money, there is no need to have anything to do with Fudge and the Ministry of Magic. Relying on the Shafik family's sales channels is enough to sell this product well. It just takes a little longer. After hearing what Aris said, Ambush immediately stood in awe. Master Aris, this is definitely a blessing for the entire wizarding world. Your contribution cannot be expressed in words. I will definitely inform the Merlin Knights of this matter. I think they will be happy to give you another medal. You are too kind. Alex shook his head calmly. After all, I did make a lot of money from it, didn't I? In that case, I should also make some preparations. Master Alex, when will your first batch of goods be ready? About a week later. Aris answered after calculating the time. Great, great, I'll go back and think about how to move this matter forward. Fudge said excitedly, Master Aris, I'll wait for your good news. Having said that, Fudge couldn't wait to say goodbye to Alex and left the castle. Then I should take action. Aris murmured softly, a faint smile appearing on her face. The production of a manor steward is actually very simple. You only need to prepare enough materials and then add some special spells. The most important and troublesome thing is actually to engrave magic circles in those materials, but this step can be completely left to Moss. Aris simply calculated that he could make about 2,000 sets in a week. Of course, he would need a lot of helpers. But the Shafik family has such a large business, and the last thing they lack is people. Shirley, please ask Uncle Henry to come back. I have something to tell him. Alex turned around and said something to the maid behind him, then walked towards his laboratory in the castle. Yes, Master. Shirley was also a person of action, and she immediately wrote a letter to Henry. At the same time, most of the young wizards at Hogwarts will leave school and return home today, and Harry Potter's miserable life will continue from this day. But because of some things Alex did, the original plot of this world deviated slightly, and everything gradually deviated from the original track. Chapter 171. Malfoy Manor. The gate that Aris had previously crumpled into a ball of scrap iron has now been replaced with an ordinary large iron gate without any magical fluctuations. Obviously, Lucius chose to compromise in order to save money. Since the last incident at Malfoy Manor, all the pureblood wizards who participated in the kidnapping of Luna have received the punishment they deserve. Not only did their pureblood family fail to gain any benefit from Aris, but they also lost the entire family's property. These pureblood wizards usually act high and mighty, always looking down on others, but now they have to do the lowest level of work in the world. Even Lucius only got a small supervisor position in Aris family industry chain. But even so, he was already very fortunate, at least he lived much better than those other pureblood wizards. Draco, are you having a good time at school for the second half of the semester? Lucius, who had just returned from get-off work, saw that his son was already back and a smile appeared on his face. Did Master Aris give you any trouble? He asked with some concern. I'm fine. Draco whispered, with no other expression on his face. Life at school was beyond his expectations. He originally thought that after his father became an employee of Aris, he would be targeted and even insulted by Aris. But it turned out that Aris was not that idle. He had not even come to me specifically to show off his superiority as the master. This made Draco feel somewhat fortunate. If Alex really did something insulting to him in school, he actually had no right to resist and could only endure it silently. That's good. Seeing that his son seemed to be in a bad mood, Zyhoki didn't know what to say. He knew that the current fate of the Malfoy family was entirely his own fault, and he even implicated his own son, who suffered with him. He smiled awkwardly and was about to say something comforting when Draco's voice rang out again. Father, it turns out that your choice is correct. Draco said without thinking. What? Lucius obviously didn't understand the meaning of this sentence. We shouldn't be enemies with Aris, because we are no match for her. Draco looked serious and spoke in a heavy tone. Did you know? A big thing happened in the school sometime before the final exams at the end of the school year. Our defense against the dark arts Professor Quirrell did something unbelievable. He went to Hogwarts just to steal something. Oh? Is there such a thing? Lucius became interested. This is actually not the most important thing. The most important thing is that Professor Quirrell is not alone. There is another soul hidden in his body. As for the owner of that soul, don't be too surprised after hearing this. It's the residual soul of the mysterious man. Draco took a deep breath and said slowly. The remaining soul of the mysterious man possessed Professor Quirrell in some unknown way and sneaked into Hogwarts. For an entire school year, no one noticed anything unusual. Do you know who ruined his plan in the end? In fact, when Lucius heard a few words from the mysterious man's remnant soul, his expression changed drastically, and he stood up anxiously. Plan? What plan? How is it possible that the you-know-who appears in Hogwarts? Is Dumbledore just a freeloader? Are all the professors at Hogwarts also freeloaders? How come no one noticed? Merlin's beard, Draco, you didn't come into contact with him. I mean, you'd better never get involved with him, otherwise it will be very dangerous. Of course I didn't. In fact, in the whole school, only Potter and his friends, and Master Alex have come into contact with the residual soul of the mysterious man, and it was Alex who defeated him. There was still a trace of lingering fear in Draco's eyes. Aris, he defeated the mysterious man. Lucius' eyes widened, as if he had heard something unbelievable. I didn't dare to believe it at first, but Dumbledore has made it clear that they did do something in that basement. Draco said affirmatively. So, I think all this is true. Aris really had a head-on collision with the mysterious man, and he survived. It even seems that Aris won this battle and the soul of the mysterious man was once again exiled to a certain space. I heard all this from those big-mouthed little wizards in Gryffindor. Draco's tone became more and more serious, and his expression became more and more nervous. He was now very grateful that Aris did not attack them at the beginning. The mysterious man appears again. Lucius muttered to himself, as if he recalled something, with deep fear in his eyes. At that moment, I watched my father walking back and forth in the living room, looking a little absent-minded, and I remained silent. This matter was indeed unbelievable. He believed that no matter who it was, they would not be able to calm down after hearing it, especially since his father had once been a subordinate of that person. Draco, are there any other details? For example, is that person dead or not? Is there any possibility of him coming back? Lucius stopped suddenly, then turned to look at Draco. I don't know much about this matter. The school hasn't disclosed much of the truth. The only things I know are what I heard from Gryffindor. Perhaps only Master Adams and Potter know what happened in that basement. Draco said honestly. Father, what are you thinking about? You look very nervous. Nothing. He just shook his head quickly, and without saying anything else, he quickly walked into the study. Looking at his weird father, Draco frowned, thought for a moment and decided not to chase him, instead he went back to his room. In the study. After Lucius sat down, he took out a tattered diary from the drawer. The diary looked quite old. There was a simple English letter written on the cover. The notes were a little blurry, but one could roughly make out that it was the opinion of Tom Riddle. He looked at the diary with some fear, thinking for a long time in silence. Finally, he gritted his teeth, stood up, put the diary into a bag, tucked it under his arm, and walked out of the study quickly. Let's leave this matter to him. With that boy's ability, he might be able to find a better solution. Chapter 172. Master Aris, everything you asked me to do has been arranged. I have asked people to collect the materials you need as quickly as possible. Based on the current situation, the manor steward should be able to officially start production within 3 days. But our workers don't know the production process of this thing, so we will need the young master to personally guide us. Inside the Shafik castle, Henry bent his body slightly and reported to Aris. Well, you did a good job. You should keep a close eye on this matter. It is very important to me. Aris nodded calmly, and then continued, I will sort out the production process of the manor butler later, and then divide it into assembly lines. The early stages are relatively simple, and the most complicated is the last step of the process. I will complete this step myself when the time comes. I understand, Master. I'll ask them to speed up. Henry nodded slightly. Then, he glanced outside and spoke again, Lucius just came to the manor and said he wanted to see you. What do you think? Did you say anything? Aris asked. He didn't say anything specific, but he looked a little nervous, and I felt like something big was going on. Henry frowned slightly, thinking back to Lucius's expression just now. He always felt that something was wrong with this guy today. Then let him in. Aris said without much concern. Yes, sir. Henry nodded, then turned and walked out of the living room. Master Alex, Dobby thinks we should leave now. Will Dobby come back to collect these things later? The elf who was cleaning the place nearby suddenly spoke and looked at Aris hesitantly. Are you so scared of seeing your former master? Aris asked Dobby. Not really, I just feel a little weird and don't want to see Mr. Lucius. Dobby shook his head with a complicated expression. Okay, you go down first. Aris waved his hand and said gently. It is understandable that he doesn't want to see his previous owner. After all, Lucius was not very friendly to Dobby, the house elf. Master, Lucius is here. At this time, Henry's voice came from the door again, and then the two of them walked into the living room. Master Aris, hello. Lucius Malfoy bowed to Aris and greeted him. Long time no see, Mr. Malfoy, what brings you here today? Aris asked straight to the point. He was very busy and didn't want to waste too much time with Lucius. Yes, something happened, and it's very important. Lucius' tone suddenly became tense, and then he glanced at Henry. Master Aris, can I talk to you alone? Oh, you want to talk to me alone? At this time, Bingley finally showed a hint of interest. If it were a small matter, Lucius would not have made such a request. After all, Henry was now his superior. He asked Henry to leave and talk to Aris alone, which would obviously make Henry uncomfortable. This matter is related to a mysterious man. Lucius glanced at Henry, then gritted his teeth and said. Mysterious man? Voldemort. Henry and Aris' voices sounded at the same time, and when the boy read out the name, Lucius and Henry trembled noticeably. Obviously, Voldemort's influence on the wizarding world is still very great, so that most people still dare not mention that name, and even feel uncomfortable when they hear that name. Lucius, do you know what you are talking about? Henry asked in a deep voice. Of course I know what I'm talking about. In fact, if the young master hadn't had an encounter with the mysterious man in school, I wouldn't have told him about this. Lucius said, not caring that Henry was right beside him, and tremblingly took out the worn diary from the black bag under his arm and handed it to Aris. What is this? Henry stood in front of Lucius vigilantly. There seems to be a soul hidden in this diary, and that soul is very likely. Lucius looked at Aris and didn't say anything else. Tom Riddle's diary. After taking the diary, Aris' eyes brightened up. He was originally wondering how to find Tom Riddle's diary. He remembered that the diary was placed in the cauldron of Golden Lady Wesley by Lucius in Diagon Alley at the beginning of the second year of school. But that was the original plot. Now Lucius is no longer the original Lucius, but has become an employee of the Shafik family. Therefore, Aris is not too sure whether the original plot will appear again. Who knows how much the flapping of his butterfly wings will change the original trajectory of this world. Alex actually doesn't like this feeling very much, but things have already happened. There is no way if you don't like it. What he didn't expect was that Lucius actually came to him and gave him a surprise by giving him Tom Riddle's diary. That is Voldemort's first Horcrux. Henry, it's okay, just give me the diary. Aris took a deep breath and spoke slowly. Master, I can feel that this diary is very dangerous. I don't know how much black magic is contained in it. Henry was a little anxious. Yes, Master Alex, you should be able to imagine that this is something that belongs to a mysterious person. There are many advanced magics cast on it. Even I don't know the reason. Lucius also quickly reminded. But this reminder made Henry feel that he had no sincerity at all. If he was really worried about Aris, he wouldn't have sent this thing here. Henry's eyes became more and more unfriendly. It's okay, give me the diary. Aris said again. Yes, young master. Although Henry was worried, he could only nod helplessly at this time. Then, Lucius stepped forward and handed Tom Riddle's diary to Alex. Aris took the diary and gently stroked the cover, feeling the magical fluctuations on it, and narrowed his eyes slightly. Very subtle magic. Although a long time has passed, the remaining magical aura and magical fluctuations are still very clear and powerful. It is worthy of being Voldemort's Horcrux. Aris took a deep breath, then said nothing, turned around and went upstairs. Master, what are you doing? Henry became more nervous and worried. Master Aris, I may need to remind you again that this diary is very dangerous, so you must be careful. Lucius spoke again to remind Daol Yang. Shut up. Henry glared at Lucius unhappily. He really hated this guy now. How could he bring such a dangerous thing to the castle and put the young master in danger? If Aris hadn't walked far away, he would have even taught this guy a lesson. Uncle Henry, don't be nervous, I'll be fine. Alex's voice came from not far away. By the way, Lucius performed well this time. You can consider raising his salary or giving him a promotion or something. After he finished speaking, Aris' figure had completely disappeared around the corner of the corridor. Thank you, young master. After hearing this, Lucius happily disappeared. Chapter 173. Back in the lab, Aris put the diary on the table. He stared quietly at the tattered and strange-looking diary, with a faint light flashing in his eyes. The aura of black magic is very strong, it can read minds and bewitch people, and it can absorb. Voldemort is indeed a genius. He was able to make something like this while still studying. Opening the diary, Aris could clearly feel some strange, even twisted soul aura in it. Is this a Horcrux? Aris muttered to himself. Suddenly, a line of words appeared on the opened diary. Those words appeared one by one, as if written by an invisible person. It looked very strange and magical. Hello, I'm Tom Riddle. This was the first line of words that appeared in the diary, followed by another line of words below. Who are you? Seeing this, Aris felt a little weird. He actually felt like he was chatting with someone online. It was like seeing a ghost. Come to think of it, it's a bit like that. When chatting online, the only thing separating you from your friends is the network cable, and on the other side of this notebook is a fragment of the soul of a great demon. Come to think of it, isn't it the same as chatting online? I'm Aris Shafik. Aris wrote in Diary 583. At this moment, he keenly felt that his magic power was being absorbed bit by bit by the diary through the pen in his hand. This was some kind of very secret black magic. No wonder in the original book Ginny was controlled by Voldemort and her power was taken away. This kind of black magic is indeed not something that an ordinary little wizard can detect. Very tricky and very dangerous. Hello, Shafik. Then, another line of words appeared in the diary, tempting Aris to continue chatting with him. I can feel that you are a very talented little wizard. Wizard? What's that? Aris smiled and then started to reply to the messages he had read. At the same time, he cast a protective spell on himself, which could protect him from being eroded by the power of black magic. The black magic in the diary could no longer affect him. That kind of spell that absorbs people's magic power naturally has no effect on Aris. 3 question marks appeared on the diary, as if the author did not understand Aris's reply. You don't know what a wizard is? Yeah, I've never heard of a wizard. Oh, maybe there's an evil wizard mentioned in some fairy tale. The smile on Aris's face grew wider. How is this possible? I clearly sensed your magic power just now, how could you not be a wizard? The tone in the diary became more and more confused, and seemed to be a little angry. Aris didn't know why he was angry, or why he felt that he had entrusted his trust to the wrong person. Originally, this diary was bound to be handed over to a little wizard, as can be seen from the plot of the original book. In the end, the diary was handed over to Ginny Weasley by Lucius. This should be the task that Voldemort originally assigned to Lucius, but because of Lucius's betrayal, the diary is now in Aris' hands. Therefore, Tom Riddle now not only felt a little confused, but also perhaps angry because Lucius did not complete his task well. I just think it's amazing that this diary can actually speak for itself. Aris began to perform and continued to write in the diary, Are you a wizard? Are wizards the people in the rumors who have powerful magical powers and are very mysterious and hidden in unknown corners of the world? Faced with Aris's series of questions, Voldemort seemed a little dazed. At this time, he should have sensed that the diary could no longer absorb Aris's magic. Or maybe, he was also thinking about the possibility that Aris was a muggle. No, you must be a wizard. When you wrote the first sentence just now, I clearly felt the magic power. So, you discovered my secret. The words Voldemort wrote began to become a little sloppy, and it was obvious that his emotions were fluctuating, and the fluctuations were very large. Tom Riddle, I didn't expect you to be so smart. Aris had had enough fun and didn't continue to play dumb. He went straight to the point and said, So you feel a little scared now. This feeling of being out of control is not good, right? Who are you? Do you know me? Tom Riddle's handwriting appeared in the diary almost instantly. It can't be considered as acquaintance. After all, we have never met before. What I have seen is just another part of your soul. And I have banished the other part of your soul to an unknown space. It is very likely that it will never come back. Aris wrote slowly in the diary. Another soul? Yes, there should be others, but to do this. Tom Riddle paused, seeming hesitant. So at the age of 17, you had already decided to split your soul into several pieces, right? Aris continued writing in her diary, Have you ever thought that after your soul is divided into several pieces, you are still yourself. At this time, Tom Riddle seemed to become anxious and anxious. If not, how can I show my powerful magical talent and make others pay more attention to me? You don't understand. Even if a person is very talented, if no one appreciates him, he will still be lonely and meaningless. The handwriting in the diary became faster and more urgent. If you want the whole world to see you, you must become extremely powerful, so powerful that everyone is afraid of you, or even terrified of you. Only in this way can they not ignore you and listen to you carefully. And no one can resist the temptation of eternal life, right? Mr. Shafik, if you are also interested in eternal life, perhaps we can cooperate. Not interested. Aris sneered and wrote in his diary. If it is immortality without any side effects, Aris is certainly interested. But if the price is to become a half-human, half-ghost like Voldemort, Aris really has no interest in such immortality. Even felt a little disgusted. Perhaps, you want to have more powerful power. The tempting words appeared in the diary again. If you know me, you will know how powerful I am. You just need to listen to me and I will give you everything you want. How is it, Mr. Shafik? Looking at the handwriting in the diary, Alex suddenly laughed out loud. More powerful strength, everything I want? Sorry, even I don't know what I want. Aris shook his head helplessly. Want money? The Shafik family has tons of money. Want strength? There are probably few people in the entire wizarding world who can defeat Aris. What's more, he has a pet, a dark red dragon with super powerful strength. In this world, he can almost walk sideways. Or a woman. With money and great power, what kind of woman can he not get if he wants? Therefore, Tom Riddle's words really have no appeal to Aris. Just to make him laugh. Chapter 174. Do you want to be resurrected? Seeing that Tom Riddle's diary fell silent, Aris suddenly wrote in the diary. A string of ellipses appeared on the diary, and no one knew what Tom Riddle meant, but Aris guessed that she was not in a good mood. I know you are different from Voldemort. Aris continued to write in the diary, you are ambitious, but you won't become a perverted murderer like Voldemort. If you want to be resurrected, I can help you. I can even help you collect all the remaining soul fragments and make you complete. Why? Tom was obviously a little surprised, but he couldn't help asking. Aris thought for a moment, and continued writing in his diary, actually there is no specific reason, I just think you should be different from Voldemort. And I have always had a question. I wonder what will happen if the owner of a Horcrux destroys it. Another string of ellipses appeared in the diary, you haven't answered me yet, do you want to be resurrected? Aris asked, if you want, I can really help you. So what do you want to do? Tom Riddle's handwriting appeared again. I will collect all your Horcruxes, and then you can devour them one by one. Of course, before that, you must destroy the Horcruxes first to release the souls inside. Destroy the Horcrux and the soul will be destroyed. If Tom Riddle could express his emotions now, he would definitely be extremely angry, even roaring. Oh, really? Aris said unimpressively, I thought if I destroyed the Horcrux, the soul inside would come out, and you could devour it. So when you said you wanted to help me, you actually just wanted to see what would happen if I destroyed my Horcrux. Believe it or not, I will kill you right now. Tom Riddle was obviously a little broken. Don't be so irritable. Aris said earnestly, your soul is not very stable to begin with. If you are still so irritable, it will have an impact on your soul. Maybe one day, your soul will go crazy, what will happen then? Get out. Tom Riddle angrily spelled out a single bite, followed by 3 big exclamation marks. Okay, think about it carefully first. Anyway, until you figure it out, you can only stay here by yourself. Having said that, Aris threw the notebook directly into the system space. He just didn't believe that he, with such sincerity, would not be able to convince a mere diary. At noon, Aris received a letter from an owl. Minister of Magic Fudge invited him to the dinner and specifically mentioned that some important people would be there. What does this guy want to do again? Aris muttered. Could it be because of the manor steward's matter? Henry on the side guessed. It's possible. Aris nodded gently, anyway, let's go there tonight. Okay, I'll arrange it right away. Henry nodded slightly, then left quickly. In the evening, with a crackling sound, 2 figures appeared outside Fudge Manor. At this time, the place was also decorated with some small gadgets to enhance the atmosphere. There were some balloons and a big banner hung at the gate of the manor. It says, "Welcome to the Fudge Manor Banquet, have a pleasant evening." It looked like the scene of some large-scale event, and Aris was both amused and confused. "Master, there seems to be someone waiting for you at the door," Henry whispered in Aris' ear. "That should be the projection of the manor's steward." Aris smiled. "In fact, this is very easy to distinguish, the projection of the manor housekeeper does not have any magical fluctuations. Every other wizard has their own unique magical fluctuations. As long as you distinguish based on this difference, it is easy to tell them apart." "Welcome Mr. Shafik." As Aris and Henry approached, the projection of the manor's butler greeted them warmly. "This is a projection of Fudge himself, and it looks very real." Aris's gift to the Minister of Magic was not perfunctory. As the sound of the projection sounded, two figures walked out of the manor. "Mr. Shafik, welcome." This time it was Fudge who came to greet him personally. "Hello, Mr. Minister." Alex nodded gently and bowed slightly to the visitor. "Mr. Shafik, please don't be so polite. We are all family and we come here to treat it as your own home. Don't be restrained." Fudge quickly held Aris's shoulders, and then the two walked into the manor together. "There are a lot of people coming today, and they will all see the powerful functions of the manor steward, **. Mr. Shafik, did you see the projection at the door?" Fudge was obviously a little excited. All the guests who came today praised this projection function. They didn't even recognize that it wasn't the real me. "Mr. Shafik, I can't even imagine how much benefit it will bring if the manor steward can be successfully mass-produced and cover the entire wizarding world. All this is thanks to your generosity and talent." "Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Minister. This is what I should do." Aris smiled gently. "Come on, let me introduce someone to you first." As soon as they walked into the living room, Fudge took Aris' hand and walked towards a figure standing by the window. "This is Anton Vogel, a famous figure in the U.S. Ministry of Magic. The current U.S. Minister of Magic often consults him on political issues." "Mr. Shafik, I was thinking that if Mr. Vogel could support us, it would be much easier for the manor steward to enter the American wizarding world. In addition, many important people will be attending the dinner tonight. These people will be of great help to our products in entering the world." While Fudge was still introducing himself, Aris's eyes had already turned to the figure by the window, and that person quickly turned around and looked at Aris. "It's true that we meet everywhere in life." Unexpectedly, he saw the old man here again, and a smile appeared on Alex's lips. "Hello Mr. Shafik, nice to see you again." What surprised Aris was that Anton Vogel's attitude at this time was completely different from the last time they met. "Hello, Mr. Vogel." Aris also smiled. "Do you know each other?" Now it was Fudge's turn to be surprised. He really didn't expect that Aris and Vogel had known each other before. Of course, Master Shafik is young and promising. He inherited the entire Shafik family at the age of 12. He is also very powerful and should not be underestimated. Vogel said seriously, and there seemed to be a hint of respect in his tone. "Yes, respect." Fudge was a little confused at this time and really couldn't understand the situation in front of him. He looked at Aris, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. How many things did he not know about this guy? The Shafik family actually had connections in the American Ministry of Magic. Chapter 175. "Mr. Vogel, you're too kind." Aris smiled and shook his head. "Shafik's strength is the result of the accumulation of dozens of generations, not because of my ability. My strength is just average. Mr. Shafik is too modest." Vogel's expression remained serious. "I have heard of your name in the United States. When it comes to handling certain things, you are more experienced than many adult wizards, and most importantly, you are very decisive." Fudge's eyes flickered slightly. He naturally knew what Vogel was talking about. A few months ago, what happened in Malfoy Manor caused a great shock in the British wizarding world and attracted the attention of many people. Vogel was also a big shot in the U.S. Ministry of Magic, so naturally he would have heard about these things. "It seems that Mr. Vogel knows me very well." Aris looked at the old man in front of him with a smile on his face, sneering in his heart. Obviously, after leaving Grindelwald last time, the old man 893 must have investigated himself carefully, but for some reason, his attitude has changed so much now. Could it be because Grindelwald put pressure on them again? But with Grindelwald's current power, his restraint on them should be much smaller, or even almost non-existent, right? Mr. Shafik, I was the one who offended you last time because of my preconceived notions. Today I solemnly apologize to you and make a promise. From now on, you can come to me directly if you have anything, as long as I can help. Vogel said sincerely. Mr. Vogel, did you have any misunderstanding with Mr. Shafik before? Fudge gradually understood at this time. From the conversation between the two, it is obvious that there should have been some contradictions between them. It's my problem. Vogel was still sincere, with a hint of guilt in his tone. This attitude made Fudge more and more surprised, and Aris became more mysterious in his heart. You know, the Vogel in front of him is a man who can call the wind and rain in the American Ministry of Magic. Such a person could actually put aside his pride and apologize to a 12-year-old boy so sincerely, and in such a humble manner. This action alone can prove a lot of things. At this time, Fudge is very glad that he chose to cooperate with Aris. Well, Mr. Vogel, let's put the past behind us. Aris had no intention of bringing up the past, and seeing Vogel's good attitude, his anger had already mostly dissipated. Thank you Mr. Shafik for your generosity. Vogel finally smiled. Then he winked at Aris and said, 10 old friends asked me to bring you a good message. He has also come to England and will probably meet you soon. Hearing this, Aris instantly understood that Vogel must be talking about Grindelwald. After all, the only person they both knew in common was the old man. Oh? What is he doing here? Aris asked curiously. He couldn't understand a lot of things Grindelwald did. First he gathered his former followers to introduce them to him, and now he came to England. He didn't know what he was going to do. Does this ambitious man really not want to do something? It seems like he doesn't want to drag him along. I'm not in a position to ask about your affairs, sir, but it sounds like it has something to do with you. Vogel explained vaguely. Forget about him. Aris shook his head, and then asked, what is the reason you are here today? Oh, I can answer this question for Mr. Vogel. Fudge said quickly, he is also very interested in the Manor Steward, especially after hearing that it was Master Aris's masterpiece, he became even more interested. Mr. Vogel came here mainly to discuss the issue of the Manor Steward entering the American magic world. He is willing to give his full support. That's right. Vogel nodded affirmatively. Of course there is no problem with that. Aris nodded thoughtfully and said with a smile, as a businessman, I naturally hope that Manor Steward can be sold all over the world. That's great. Fudge clapped his hands. If there are no other questions, we can even sign the contract tonight. Based on the current situation, it is probably only a matter of time before Manor Butler is sold all over the world. I am really looking forward to it more and more. By the way, Master Shafik, how is the problem of mass production of manor housekeepers being solved? We have already started production and should be able to deliver the goods in a week. Aris thought for a moment and said, if we want to supply it to the American wizarding world, we will have to wait for a while. No problem, I can wait. Vogel said quickly, however, I would like to talk to Master Shafik about the Manor Butler product alone. Is this all right with you, Minister Fudge? Vogel turned to look at Fudge. Of course, no problem. Have a good chat. I also need to go greet the other guests. Fudge said quickly, Zero thank you. Vogel bowed slightly. After Fudge left, Vogel took Aris to a corner and sat down. Master Shafik, Mr. Grindelwald also asked me to bring you a message. Vogel's expression became a little serious. He said, time is a very wonderful thing. It can hide many truths, but it can also reveal many truths. He told you to be careful because it's not easy to control time. Hearing this, Aris frowned slightly, anything else? No, those are his exact words, Vogel said affirmatively. Aris fell into deep thought. Time? Hiding the truth? Find the truth? And control of time? He didn't know what Grindelwald meant by what he said. This mute's fight is really inexplicable and has no beginning or end. After thinking for a moment, an idea suddenly flashed through Aris's mind. Is it because of that? Time anchor and time travel? He knows that I have the ability to travel through time and space. Aris was secretly surprised, but he soon reacted. Grindelwald has the power of prophecy and can see certain fragments of the future. This ability is very wonderful and can often bring some unexpected gains. Perhaps he saw something from the future fragments and deduced that 4.0 himself had the ability to travel through time and space. If that was true, it made sense for him to say these things. Time is a strange and dangerous thing. It is not so easy to control it. He was probably worried that he would abuse this ability, so he gave a reminder. I understand. Aris nodded slightly and smiled at Vogel. As for the manor steward, Master Shafik, please let me know if you have any instructions. Vogel also smiled, I will definitely cooperate with you to the fullest. Mr. Vogel, there is actually something I don't understand. Aris looked at the old man in front of him thoughtfully and asked, why did you suddenly change your attitude towards me? Hearing this, Vogel's expression changed slightly, and then he laughed awkwardly. Well, please keep this a secret for now. But, Master Shafik, you can rest assured that I have absolutely no ill will towards you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.